Good evening, everyone. I want to call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Rialto City Council on Tuesday, September 11th. And please accept my apologies for not being able to start at 6 o'clock, and we will call this meeting to order at 6:29 p.m. And with that, I will ask that our city clerk, would you please do roll call, please?
Mayor Robertson.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Scott.
Present.
Councilmember Baca Jr.
Here.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Here.
Councilmember Carey-Sellers.
Here.
City Treasurer Correa.
Present.
Thank you. Got that.
City Administrator, I'm sorry, and City Attorney Galante.
Here.
All right, thank you. Okay, now I would ask if everyone today could rise and join Councilmember Andy Carey-Sellers in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then remain standing for invocation by Pastor Braxton of Greater Faith Grace Bible Church.
Put your right hand over your head. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Pastor Braxton.
Let us pray. First, God of comfort, we want to thank you for the many broken hearts that you comforted since the 9/11 incident and continue to comfort through the years to come. Now, God of wisdom, we pray and thank you for this effective and efficient city council that continues to lead and guide and direct this city with the resources to be effective and efficient, all that they're doing. We pray, God, that as we meet here tonight, we'll see and once again understand the love and concern that this council has for this your great and dynamic city. Father, bless this meeting. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, now I'd ask if the city attorney could report out in closed session.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council and audience. The City Council met in closed session and discussed the following cases. Item 1 on the closed session agenda, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. Only one matter was discussed. City Council received an update on the threat of litigation in that matter, and no further reportable action was taken. Item number 2, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation. Item A, Christopher Heiss versus City of Rialto workers' compensation matter. City Council received a briefing, provided direction, no further reportable action. Item B, Zepeda versus Anthony Polito and City of Rialto. City Council received a briefing on the status of that litigation matter, provided direction, no further reportable action was taken. Item 3, conference with labor negotiator concerning all the employee organizations previously reported and identified on the closed session agenda. City Council provided direction on those negotiations and no further reportable action was taken. The meeting adjourned at 6:25 p.m., Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is presentations and proclamations. And today I have only one proclamation that I would like to present. And it will be presented both to our fire chief and our police department. And it's in recognition of National Day of Service and Remembrance, which is today. Go ahead. Okay, this is a proclamation in recognition of today is 9/11, and of course a lot of us know what happened 17 years ago on September 11th. So whereas on September 11th, 2011, the American people endured the worst terrorist attack on our country, and whereas Rialto remembers those who lost their lives at the Pentagon, the World Trade Center, and in a field in southwest Pennsylvania, and whereas the entire nation witnessed and shared in the tragedy, but were united under a remarkable spirit of service and compassion that inspired and helped heal the nation. And whereas in 2009, Congress passed the Edward M. Kennedy Service America Act, which included the authorization and federal recognition of September 11th as a National Day of Service and Remembrance. And whereas we, as a community, wish to honor the heroic service actions, sacrifice of first responders, law enforcement personnel, firefighters, local officials, volunteers, and countless others who aided the innocent victims of those attacks, risking and often sacrificing their own lives. Whereas the City Council and the City of Rialto wish to recognize the brave service and sacrifice given each day by the members of our armed forces, intelligence agencies, diplomatic services, Homeland Security, and Rialto Public Safety Departments to support the cause of freedom and defend the security of our nation. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Deborah Robertson of the City of Rialto, on behalf of the Rialto City Council and all citizens hereof, I do hereby proclaim Tuesday, September 11th, 2018, as National Day of Service and Remembrance, and urge our citizens to set aside September 11th as a day to mourn, reflect, and rededicate ourselves to ending terrorism and honor the victims of September 11th by reaffirming our commitment to sustaining our newfound patriotism. Signed by myself, the mayor, and attested to by our city clerk on this day. And I have one for our police chief and one also for our fire chief. And so with that, I would turn it over to you, gentlemen.
Thank you. The shorter guy gets to go first. Thank you very much, Mayor. I'll be very brief. If any of you drove by the police headquarters or the fire station on Willow Avenue today, you saw 343 crosses on the fire department side and 60 crosses on the police department side. And that represented the firefighters and police officers who were killed on September 11, 2001. And while we love keeping them in our memory, and it's very important, it's also very important for us. And it's my honor to work for you all in the city of Rialto, where you honor those people, but also honor the nearly 3,000 Americans that died that day, that were husbands, wives, co-workers, loved ones, who did nothing more than go to work that day. And many of them were community superheroes. They saved thousands and thousands of lives with their actions that day. So very gracious for the opportunity to serve here and for the recognition that the community gives to those that lost their life that day. Thank you very much.
So the fire chief always asks me, or says to publicly, he doesn't know how to follow me. That's really a tough act to follow, right? So, you know, today is a somber moment for us, not just here in the community, but also nationwide. And all I would really add is that on behalf of the hardworking men and women of the Rialto Fire Department and the Rialto Police Department, this proclamation means much more to us than you can imagine. So thank you very much.
And I would just like to add that today we did have a remembrance ceremony at 10 a.m. this morning, September 11th. And we also would certainly like to have a day of service and remembrance. And so we didn't set one this year, but we will definitely be looking forward to setting one for next year, where we will ask our community to come out and let's work collectively to address providing a day of service. We will be having a Make a Difference Day coming up in October 27th, and I hope that we can use that time to also rededicate ourselves to a day of service. But our ceremony this morning was, it's not a celebration, but it is a moment to reflect. And I just want to say that the police department and fire department, along with one of our retired Lieutenant Kathy Thompson, they did an outstanding job. So thank you guys. All right. So now with that, we'll move to oral communications. And I don't know if I have any general oral communications.
No, Madam Mayor, they're all for a tab item.
Okay. So with that, we'll move to City Council to consider removing or continuing any item on the agenda. And I would ask that our colleagues, if you don't mind and would so indulge, I would like to move tab number 12 to be heard as tab number 5 once we get past public hearing. So is there any objections to that? Okay. And Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I will be abstaining on tab item number 12 as I own property at 142 South Riverside Avenue, and that is within 500 feet of that project. That project is in a former redevelopment agency area and also Rialto housing area, so I will be abstaining on that item.
Okay. Is there anyone else?
Thank you, Madam.
Yes.
Yes, I'll be abstaining from E5, E7, E8, E9, tab 2, and tab 11 due to a conflict of interest with my lease at the Renaissance Marketplace.
All right. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I may, Development Services have advised that the property owner for tab 2 public hearing has asked for a continuance.
All right. Thank you. So we will note tab 2 will be carried over. Do we need to, we still need
If I
to
may,
take
Madam
action?
Mayor, since it is scheduled as a public hearing, I'd recommend you open the public hearing and then consider
Okay.
continuing it.
All right. Okay, so with that, is there anything else on the consent calendar that anyone needs to make note of or pull for any other discussions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to...
approval.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mayor Pro Tem Scott, seconded by Councilmember Abaca Jr. Any objections? Hearing none, the motion carries. And now we'll move into our first tab item, which will be tab 1, the public hearing. We will request the City Council to conduct a public hearing regarding the proposed annexation of territory for Rialto Landscaping and Lighting. Good evening. Are you ready?
I am. Does the mouse down here work that, or do I need a separate clicker for the,
Well,
it's connected, so I don't want to move it.
it's
Does it work?
moving. There's something moving. Okay.
Sorry about that. This evening, I'd like to request that the City Council conduct a public hearing regarding the proposed annexation of territory to the Rialto Landscape and Lighting District Number 2, adopt a resolution declaring the results of the property owner protest ballot proceedings, and adopt a resolution confirming the engineer's report and ordering the levy and collection of assessments commencing in fiscal year 2019-2020. The city conditioned several development projects to construct parkway and/or median landscaping and to install city streetlights. Annexation into the LLMD2 is a condition of the city's acceptance of any publicly maintained landscaping and street lighting. Staff currently recommends the following development projects to be annexed into LLMD2. This is a north-south map showing the overall landscaping districts. This is the south portion. The first is PPD 2017-0056 Etowanda Homes. This is a residential annexation. And then the first commercial annexation is Baseline Warehouse PPD 2398 and Wheeler Trucking PPD 2017-0077. A protest ballot proceeding for the proposed levy of new assessments as described in the engineer's report, and a minimum of 45-day notice of a public hearing prior to the city's council consideration of the annexations is required. On July the 10th, the City Council adopted Resolution 7369 setting a public hearing to consider the annexations to Rialto Landscape and Lighting District Number 2 for this evening, September 11th, 2018. Subsequently, the city mailed out notices and official ballots to the property owners on record. If the city annexes these areas into LLMD2 beginning July 1st of 2019, The city will levy and collect increased special assessments of approximately $17,979.74 for fiscal year 2019-2020. At this time, I request that the City Council conduct the public hearing and take any public testimony regarding the proposed annexations.
All right, thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing, and is there anyone who desires to speak to this item? If not, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Trujillo and seconded by Councilmember Abaca Jr. Any objections? Hearing none. Motion carries. Public hearing's closed. And what is any questions, comments, any pleasure? You need ballots?
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council, I have 3 ballots to open, and I will open those now. I'll do the, let me have to find. Yes, this ballot is for PPD 2398, 2000 West Baseline LLC, in favor of, so they voted that yes. The next ballot for the PPD is 2017-0077. That ballot is for Wheeler Trucking, and that's in favor, no.
It's opposed.
I mean, I'm sorry, it's not in favor, it says no. I'm sorry. Not a yes or no. And then the final ballot that I'm open is DDP 2017-0056, and that is a yes in favor of.
Okay.
So at this point, 2 of the 3 annexations would be approved as reported by the city clerk.
All right.
And
So
it would require a motion second to approve the item.
So moved.
Second.
moved by Mayor Pro Tem Scott, seconded by Councilmember Baca Jr., that we will approve 2 of the 3. Any objections? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Now we're into tab number 2, and again, this is a public hearing, so we're going to open the public hearing. Who's providing the specifics on this one? Do we have somebody? Okay.
Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, tab item 2, we have a request from the property owner who is the subject of this evening's meeting to continue the item because he is out of the country and wants to be able to attend to answer any questions that the mayor and council may have. So respectfully, I ask that the item be continued to the next available City Council meeting.
Yes, I understand. I guess I was just saying, what is the item we should share?
Oh, I'm sorry. It is a specific plan amendment for the Renaissance specific plan to change the zoning designation of a site from residential to industrial employment zone.
Okay. Well, this is a public hearing, and I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wants to speak to the item? Hearing none, I would like to have a motion to continue the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Scott, seconded by Councilmember Trujillo. No objections, we will continue the item, public hearing.
Thank you.
Public hearing will remain open.
Thank you.
Okay, tab 3, public hearing to consider Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Cappers.
Mayor, Pro Tem, members of the City Council. What you have before you is a request for City Council to conduct a public hearing to consider and approve the city's 2017-2018 CAPER. Here to present is Mr. Frank
Fred.
Perez.
Thank you, Mayor.
I thought it was Rudy, but
Okay.
it looked like Rudy. Okay. Frank Perez from LDM and Associates is our presenter.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. The item before you today is a request for the City Council to conduct a public hearing and approve the 2017-2018 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, which is commonly referred to as the CAPER. The City of Rialto receives Community Development Block Grant funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development on an annual basis. These funds must be used for activities that primarily benefit low and moderate income residents of the City of Rialto. To receive these funds, HUD requires that the city prepare and submit a 5-year consolidated plan, an annual action plan, and CAPERs that correspond to each of the 5-year periods. The annual action plan informs HUD as to the city's proposed use of the CDBG funds. The CAPER provides HUD with a report to the city's accomplishments through the use of the CDBG funds and progress towards meeting 5-year goals established under the consolidated plan. The CAPER is prepared utilizing a HUD-mandated format through a web-based reporting system. Upon submittal, HUD then consolidates that data for all of their CDBG recipients and submits it to Congress to demonstrate the benefits generated through the CDBG funds. The 2017-2018 program year is the 3rd year of the 5-year consolidated period. For the program year, the city received $1,126,668 in CDBG funds. Those funds were allocated to a variety of activities directed at achieving consolidated plan goals and to provide needed services to low and moderate income residents of the City of Rialto. Through the efforts of all those involved in the implementation of the CDBG funded activities, the city has been able to make strides in achieving its 5-year goals. Special praise should be given to all those public service agencies that do an outstanding job, not only providing great service to the residents of Rialto, but also complying with the vast federal requirements that are imposed on them. Under the 4 goals established under the consolidated plan, CDBG funds were used to accomplish the following during the program year. Under the goal of housing preservation, 5 households were assisted during the year for the rehabilitation of their dwellings. Under the public service to low-income residents goal, a wide range of public services were provided to 462 Rialto residents. These included services to at-risk youth, seniors, veterans, and low and moderate income families. Under the Fair Housing Services goal, fair housing services were provided to 593 Rialto residents. And under the goal for community facilities and infrastructure improvements, completion of capital improvement projects included the 2016-2017 curb, gutter, and sidewalk project, the Budbender Monument sign project, community center fence project, Phase 2 of the Community Resource Center ADA Improvements Project, and one additional project, the Rialto Announcers Booth, has been awarded and currently in construction phase. As required by HUD, the CAPER has been noticed and made available for public review. Staff recommends that the City Council solicit public comments from interested citizens and approve the city's 2017-2018 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. This does conclude my presentation. I would be glad to answer any questions that you do have.
All right, thank you. Okay, this is also a public hearing, and so the public hearing is open. If there's anyone who would like to speak to the item, please do. Is there any public comments? Hearing none, would like to move to close the public hearing. Been moved by Councilmember Baca Jr. and seconded by Councilmember Carazels. Any objections? Public hearing is closed. And any comments or anything to add to the presentation. Councilmember Baca.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to thank those community service groups that are doing a great job in their reporting and providing services to our community. But, you know, I've said it before and said it again, I just want to make sure we continue to move on these capital projects and making sure we're expediting them, finishing them on time. And you know, I know that pretty soon, within a couple months, we're going to be going into the next round of requests for the following year. So I want to make sure that, you know, we keep these projects moving. So hopefully we can get the community center rehab design done soon. We could finish the announcer's booth, which I know is one of those projects, and all the other capital projects. But, you know, I want to thank your group for doing a great job on the reporting. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? If not, I too would just like to quickly compliment and commend those who have assisted and helped us in carrying out this objective. Councilmember Baca Jr. and I sit as the subcommittee, and we look at the resources we have available to, especially how do we distribute them in a manner that we impact capital projects as well as providing services. And as you were talking, I was looking at the chart, and you know, one of the areas where I think for our city we've continued to try is to spread some of the money with our public service organizations and community base. And our 5-year strategic plan, for the amount of money, we hope to serve 2,250 people over a 5-year period. But even this year, we did over 428, as you said, which really exceeded our goal by 107%, almost 108. So sometimes we often look at the money, which was only a really small amount of 169,000, but we still were able to impact and provide services that covered our youth, our veterans, our seniors, and others all throughout the community. So thank you. Thank you, LDM, for guiding us, and thank you, Community Service Director, for your staff and your team leading us and staying on top of this. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
Second.
Okay, I will acknowledge that Councilmember Baca Jr. moved, and I'll take Councilmember Trujillo seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any objections? Hearing none, that carries. Thank you, Mr. Perez. Tab 4, another public hearing, and this one is to look at adopting recreation fees and charges for recreation services. That's Mr. Brentz.
Members of the City Council's request the City Council conduct a public hearing to approve and adopt resolution number 7392 to update recreation fees and charges for recreation services. By way of background, the Rialto Municipal Code, Section 3.32, empowers the city to recover costs reasonably borne for providing various services through the imposition of fees and charges. You'll note that as of May 3rd, 2005, it's adjusted incrementally on an annual basis, those fees that we currently charge. The Community Services Department would like to amend the recreation fee schedule to add 1, fees for current and future nonprofit youth groups and nonprofit adult groups addressing the use of sports field park lights by adding a static per season $5 per participant fee for use of sports field park lights. And then 2, adopting fees for new parks built after 2017 to be charged to all user groups categories. You'll find your attachment number 1 identifies those user group categories. And number 3, adding new or updated rental fees for the use of park picnic shelters and other park amenities such as electricity and outdoor stages. These are fees that were never considered as a part of our fee structure for the, I want to say the history of the fee schedule have never been charged. So the city's current fee schedule for recreation services primarily is based on outdated estimated values and does little to address the work done in maintenance, material costs, and operations. So fees charged should be an adequate representation of the actual time and material costs associated with the services provided, allowing the city to recover costs reasonably borne for providing various services through the imposition of fees and charges. The public hearing has been noticed as per Code Section 6062A, which requires a notice to be published at least 10 days prior to the hearing. We'd like the fees, if approved here today, to go into effect on October the 1st, 2018. This has been reviewed by the City Attorney's Office. We've actually provided you with an attachment showing what those fees are. There's six fees to be added to the schedule, and none of the other fees are affected by this change in terms of taking any of those fees out of the out of service. Those fees will remain in service. That concludes my presentation, asking the City Council to open the public hearing.
All right, this is a public hearing, and is there anyone who would care to speak to the item? Hearing none or seeing none, I entertain a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Trio and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Scott to close public hearing. Okay, and council members, is there any questions? Mayor Pro Tem Scott.
Perry, was there any outreach to the local youth groups regarding these fees?
Yes, our outreach to the local youth groups, and they voted on the fee. So the fee for them was reasonable. It was something that they felt that they could bear as a part of the cost. We meet on every 3 months. We have a meeting in which we actually did that, and we actually had them as a part of the subcommittee with the Rec and Parks Commission as well. So it went to Rec and Parks Commission as a recommendation to the City Council.
Okay, I appreciate you doing that outreach. I think that's really important. Secondly, do you have any, and it might be in here, I just haven't seen it, but what kind of revenue will this generate for the city?
No, we didn't do the revenue study in terms of formally, but informally, the revenue study showed that, well, what we did do with the groups, it showed that we'd probably make about $47,000 more on an annual basis than we are at this point. And that's just from the lighting, the $5 assessment fee for each of the user groups. In terms of the lighting, we have to wait to see because we've got new lighting going into some of the parks as well as the new parks coming online.
And do you have a projection of what the new lighting's going to cost?
No, not at this time. Based on our projections with Joe Sampson Park, we don't have any history there. With regards to Bud Bender and, I want to say Bud Bender and Frisbee Park, the new lights that are going to be there, that's what we're going to base some of that cost on. So we're more than likely it's going to be at $20,000 or more based on some of the usage that we have in the past. So we're looking at per season. So there's 2 seasons per year at each group, and there's up to 10. I want to say up to 10 user groups that are currently using the parks. So it's going to affect them. I'll bring something back if you need me to.
Okay. Well, the only reason I'm asking is I don't want anybody to think that we intend to make a profit on this. That this is more than anything to be able to cover costs.
No. And it's at 2% of our cost. Our current cost. These fees are based on a scale that at the end of the day, we're going to receive, about 2%, if that.
Okay, thank you.
A question.
You have a question?
Yes. I saw the new fees for the picnic shelter. I saw it $50 each.
Yes.
And then I saw the skate park. It says $25 an hour.
Yes, if you'd like to rent the skate
refer to?
park. If you want to rent the skate park, it would be like $25 an hour.
Oh, okay.
You have everyone met Ray last city council meeting. Ray has a skate shop. The skaters are always trying to have tournaments. We don't run tournaments from our community services department, but if they'd like to run tournaments, then they can apply for a special events license and run a tournament, and that's what it would cost them.
So, another question then, based
Yes.
on that. Right now, our skate parks are open where there's no programming. You kind of just use the skate parks.
Yes.
So how will this mean that it'll be closed off to the rest of the public? That'll be more for private use?
It would be closed off like we do at special events in the park. Them having to rent the use of that facility during that time frame, and then it would open back up after that tournament would be over.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I do.
Councilmember.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate you very reaching out to our youth groups, and I want to be clear to the public, the intent is not to price our youth out. We want our youth to continue to participate in programs, and we know that a lot of kids in our community and families in our community are very strapped financially, so we know it's tough. But all we're trying to do is recoup some costs, but I think at some point in time, I know it was kind of brought up, and I know that, Councilman Trujillo kind of alluded to it, but really didn't go into detail. But, we're talking about the skate park. You could rent for $25 an hour. The reality is it's not gated, so it's really hard to control when people come in and out. Regards to the shelters, we could
how do we rent those when they're kind of open to the public? So those are difficult things that we're going to have to try to address. If we're going to charge people a fee, you know, I don't want to get to the point where people are competing for the shelter. And a lot of times what people do for those shelters is they get there 5, 6 in the morning and they set up for their parties because they want to be the first one there. So I want to make sure we're very clear on how we address these. And I know it's been brought up by Mayor Pro Tem, but I know at some point in time that, you know, we're going to have to, you know, look at getting park rangers, and we're going to have to look at shutting our parks down. And I don't mean shutting it down to the public, but I mean at closing it at specific hours. And it's for a couple reasons. For safety reasons, because we don't know what goes on there after 10 o'clock. The other thing is, part of this is just maintenance issues. And I know that when we put up gates, it's not, the intent is not to keep people out, but, you know, people tend to sometimes not take care of it. And we put a lot of money into our parks. I mean, we really invest, so it's really important that the education to the public is, look, we got to take care of what we have. You know, I don't want things to be dilapidated, deteriorated, and we want things to look nice for our public. We've been investing, and I get accused of being a big champion for parks, but that's okay. You know, I mean, I'm okay with that because I believe in it, and I believe in our kids, and I believe in what we're doing. But the intent here is not to price people out, but just to try to recoup some of the costs. But I think we do need to look at those other items that are already open a little bit closer. I think at some point in time, we probably need to, you know, control the skate park, you know, because I know a lot of times there is marijuana use, there is a lot of trash there at all the times, and I want to make sure you know, it maintains itself, because it's very expensive to maintain parks. But hopefully we take a look at those things. But thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Anyone else? No. I guess I didn't hear you, Perry, indicate currently, what is it costing us to maintain our parks annually?
That's a question for the park maintenance, but on an annual basis, the 2% we're doing is a drop in the bucket. It depends on which park we're talking about too, because it's based on acreage. If I were to refer back over to Public Works, there's we did a thing not too long ago trying to get us a M&O for what it would cost us per acre. We did that with the art park, I believe, and we were looking at it with the parks when we were doing the assessment. So, Robert, do you have anything?
We had some numbers just for the landscape maintenance.
Yeah.
That was around $47,000 an acre annually. But that's just the landscaping, so there's a lot of other components that would go into that. We could certainly provide that information of what that annual is on an average. But different parks have different amenities, so it is a little bit of a mix, but we could average that out.
Mayor Pro Tem said he would like to see it, and I would like to see it as well. And you're speaking of the landscape maintenance side, but I think there's other elements to how we have to maintain our facility, including the physical structures, and you know, even the building maintenance, as well as the aesthetics. So maybe we could do a breakdown of all the things that we cover and replace, and get a feel for that, because you know, I think we all agree that we want space, open space and things, but it does require a cost associated with maintaining the parks, and somehow we accept that, we bear that burden, but we have no way that we really offset it. Even the one as simple as the little pocket park we have in the city, you know, if, as you well know, if gophers go out there, we have a concern about someone could hurt themselves, so it requires some degree of resources, and so this is a starting point. Okay, any objections? Did we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Scott and seconded by Councilmember Trio. There's no objections. Hearing none, motion carries. Right, thank you. Okay, so now I believe, Mayor Pro Tem, you said you will be excusing yourself, and I've asked that we move item 12 to go before tab number 5. We're now into new business. So with that, I would ask, I believe Mr. Steele, you will be carrying this. Okay, start off, please.
Madam Mayor, tab 12 is a request for the City Council to discuss and consider termination of a pre-development services agreement between the Rialto Housing Authority and Time for Change Foundation, as requested at the last council meeting by Councilmember Trujillo. On July 10th, 2018, the Rialto Housing Authority approved a pre-development services agreement with Time for Change Foundation That agreement compensates Time for Change for due diligence expenses it incurs on investigating various sites within the city. Does not grant land use entitlements for any particular site, and it does not convey site control. Those are all subsequent actions of the council and your various commissions. One site under consideration is the northwest corner of Olive Avenue and Rialto Avenue, although other sites have also been considered during the due diligence investigations. On August 28, 2018, Councilmember Trujillo requested that staff place an item on the agenda to consider termination of this agreement. In your staff report, I've provided the contract terms relative to termination, so you can take those under consideration. Staff's recommendation is to discuss and consider terminating the pre-development services agreement as requested at the last council meeting by Councilmember Trujillo. Staff is available to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. So this item was brought back, and I believe we have also the presenter that wants to do a presentation. City Clerk, do we have people who wanted to speak?
I have over 20-some people wanted to speak on the item.
Okay. So with that, would you start?
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, Mr. Stills concluded his presentation, and so I think we have 20-something people. I would like to say that for the record, I'll let everyone speak, and then I do have letters from our electeds that would like to be acknowledged and maybe put into consideration. So I think with that, we'll start off with the director for Time for Change, Ms. Kim Carter.
I'm the founder of Letters to the Director.
Okay.
You want to start with her? Go ahead.
Thank you.
Who is that?
Good evening.
Good evening.
So my name is Vanessa Perez. I am the director of Time for Change Foundation. As many of you know, I've met many of you. I've hosted you at our office out in San Bernardino, giving you a tour of our shelter program. Appreciate you taking the time to come out. I want to just come here today to just share a little bit of how I feel about this whole situation. At Time for Change Foundation, what we do is we help women and children become self-sufficient. And so as you can see, there's a lot of us here today in the crowd. This isn't all of us. This is some of us. And what we do, we empower women and we build them up. As many of you know, when you learned, you met a lot of these women yourselves, saw you saying hi to some of them as they walked in. But I am appalled and I'm actually in shock. I'm a young Latino woman and I'm trying to run an agency and help women. These are sisters, these are mothers, these are cousins, these are nieces. And this can be anybody. This could be any of my family, any of your family here. And so what I'm trying to do in running this agency is help these women get a place where they can be self-sufficient, they can get jobs, they can take care of their kids. You don't just see women in here, you see children also. Because that's what this is about. It's about bringing families together so that they can come to that place where they can be unified. Some women don't have children in their custody. We have women here right now that are fighting to get custody of their children, but they have no stability. They have no place where they can bring their children to. And so that's what we do. We help reunify women and children. We help reunify families. To this date, we've reunified 247 kids out of foster care. We've helped over 1,200 women and children become self-sufficient. It's my understanding right now that Rialto has 0 shelter programs for women and children. So I don't understand why coming to the program and sharing how you support the work that we do, that you love what we do, that you have no problem with the program, but yet you want to pull back something that it's not even us digging in the dirt. This is just a study. This is just to bring up a thought of even having a shelter program and affordable housing for women. There's women here that have been in the shelter program and then they need to go to that next level. They're ready. This project is for the community members of Rialto. So we build them up so that they can be self-sufficient, but we empower them to be leaders too. And I want to point out, you mentioned, Mayor, that you have support letters from Congress, Congresswoman Norma Torres. We have Senator Connie Leyva. We have Eloise Gomez-Reyes, Assemblywoman, which I know you guys have these on your tables. You may read them, you may not read them. But we empower our women to be actively engaged in the community, and I just want you to know that we have been serving the community of Rialto for over 10 years. So just because we don't have a physical office in here yet, doesn't mean that we haven't been supporting the city and the community members. I got lists right here. This is over 5,000 community members. You see highlights, you see pen, you see papers. This is from phone calls that we've made. This is people that we met. This is people in this community, in this city, who support women and children, who support housing for women and children, who want to see families get to that next level and not stay stuck in poverty and stay stuck in homelessness. And so I just want to point that out, and I want to let you know how I feel, and they're all going to share with you how they feel about it, because for one, this is not even putting a shovel in the dirt. This is just the idea. So I don't understand why we can't just have a study that can be done for the city, and then you can decide later on if you want to move forward with this project, if you want to do something different, if you want to do it in a different location, which I'm sure the community is talking that that's an issue as well. But right now, for what you guys are doing, this is unethical. Your yes should be yes, and your no should be no. It shouldn't say yes and then no, or no and then yes. Yes, yes, and no, no. And that's it. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
So I want y'all to stand right here, I want y'all to look right over there, stand right here in front, right here. I want y'all to see how the people look when they deny you opportunity. Everybody have to see how it looks, you gotta learn young. You gotta learn young. So greetings, right? So I regret that I'm standing here tonight to talk about what I call the lack of constitutional ethical standards that demonstrate your ability to carry forth the business affairs of this city. On July the 10th, this proposed feasibility study was brought before this council, and it was passed by this council. And since that time, we have been implementing work based on you passing that feasibility study. And so it's shocking to me to see 2 months later that you want to pull back the study that you already approved after I've already been incurring expenses, because I took what you said to be honest and true, that you wanted to see a study. Let me define feasibility. Feasibility just means determine the possibility of. That's all it means. Feasibility. Determine the possibility of. So we have feasibility study. Study is the devotion of time and attention to acquire knowledge. So what you're saying is that you don't even want to determine the possibility of and get the attention and knowledge to even make a decision. To make a decision at a later point about a women and children's program. So, Mr. Trujillo, since you're the one that brought this project back, so you're the one I'm talking to right now, because you don't even want to consider that, what you do to me right now, you make me think of a sexist, somebody who is unsavory, disingenuous, and dishonest, because you're pulling back an agreement that was made right here that you voted on. Are you telling the Rialto residents that I'm just...
Sorry, our rules of protocol require that you address the council as a whole and not make comments about any council member.
So the whole council, when the shoe hit, you know who I'm talking to. The possibility of this housing program, you voted on it, allow us to go out and do work, and you want to pull it back because of a study, right? So to blatantly oppose, to consider this project is a direct assault on women. And injustice anywhere? Everywhere. So what I'm calling on right now for all women within the sound of my voice, and hear me loud and clear on that videotape, because you will go viral. Pull your phones out. We're going to unearth and we're going to expose, a male-dominated council that will not even consider a feasibility study, a potential of a housing project in this whole city of Rialto. You have this male domination sitting right here that won't even consider a possibility. This has to be exposed. I am a member of the United States of Women. Today is 9/11. In remembrance, I'm supposed to be remembering our fallen heroes. But you know what I'm remembering? I'm remembering the time when women couldn't even vote. I remember the time when we couldn't even get loans because we had to have our husbands sign for them. See, I'm remembering that today, because right now, this assault on women, it just can't be tolerated. And it must be exposed, right? This cannot stay a dirty little secret of the city of Rialto. It must be exposed. So although within my voice, and we're going all the way to Washington, D.C., we're going all the way right here, because you know what? It just unearths my whole conscience that you will renege on a deal that was made and try to leave me hanging out to dry with bills
bills that I've incurred because you made a decision, because you sat in that seat as if you were honorable and you knew how to handle your business, and you want to go back on that. So y'all pull out your phones, take notes, because this oppression that we're experiencing right here today in Rialto will not be tolerated. That's what I'm here to say. We're going to share through CNN and everything else. I'm thinking of words like unprincipled, or I'm thinking of shameless, unsavory, dishonorable, no moral principles, not being honest and not being fair. Who does that? Who does that in today's world? Well, you're not even going to be fair and uphold your own word. So when I think about Mr. Scott, who did leave, and he was a part of coming to our program, he called and asked us, do we support candidates? And as a 501c3, we cannot support candidates. It's something that we took an oath to. But my name is Kim Carter, and when I leave out that office door, I am an individual with my whole civic responsibility, and I will organize and I will mobilize against anybody who continues to oppress women. So you can count on that. And I know you're not running for office until 2020. I know you're not, and you might think it's going to be gone, but I got a long memory. But you got some colleagues in the diocese that is running for office, and why do you want to get them caught up in your shenanigans behind a study? A study, you can just have the study, get the results of the study, determine, yay, I want to move forward, or nay, I don't. You want to pull back and renege on a study, a potential idea for women and children? That's not going to happen. And what really bothers me is that my congressman, my hero, Norma Torres, she stands for women. She stands for children. And to know that you are a representative of her, it's like, hello, everybody. Call Washington, D.C. Let her know there's the fox in the hen house, because how can you have a low regard for women and represent somebody else's constituency? That don't even make no sense. That
Again,
don't even make no sense.
I'm
so
sorry.
We have to make sure that we make those forms.
Excuse me.
Ms. Carter, excuse me, I believe that the council is trying to get attention one more time.
Just again, the rules of decorum require you address the council as a whole and not comment.
Everybody that hear my voice in the council, I'm addressing you. So if I look that way, it's because I don't know if I'm back to people who are here today to support this issue, but I'm addressing everybody in this room, and particularly that video camera back there. Right, so hear my words clearly. Can you, Mr. Henry Caracelis, go home to your daughters and tell your little daughter that I rejected the possibility of an idea of a study?
Ms. Carter, keep it to all council.
Okay, council, can you go home to your children and tell your children that you reject the idea of a study? Please, can you ask them, do you reject the idea of a women and children shelter? Time for Change does not want to be in any city that we are not wanted, period. Wherever I go, I bring assets. This project that we're trying to get an idea about will require that me raise $8 million to bring to the city. So what you're denying right now is the idea of someone bringing $8 million to deposit into this city for women and children's housing, something that you do not have. And you know why it's sexist? Because this housing is women specific. It's for women and children.
Ms. Carter.
It's for women and children.
I definitely don't want to stop you, but
so
the 5
Okay,
minutes.
my 5 minutes is up, but it took me a longer than that to get back here for 2 months. Because, see, 2 months ago I left, and I've been working ever since, right? But what say ye, council? Are you going to make history tonight and show what side you stand on? Are you for women or against women?
Right.
Make your decision tonight, because this is not going to be over with.
Thank you. All right.
Next speaker. You have Angela Martinez.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Angela Martinez.
Angela Martinez.
Hi, my name is Angela Martinez. I'm from Time for Change Foundation. You can't get what they've given me, and you can't get what they've given me in just a year or months, or not even 2 years. I've been at Time for Change for 4 years, and since then I've ran into a wall here or two. But because of the program that they have and the shelters, and there's no time limit to being there, and all you can do is move up and move forward as long as you just stay on the path that you're supposed to stay on. I can say today that I have my apartment. My kids have been in the same school for the last 4 years. I have a really good job. I work at I work at Cedar House, and that's the place that I recovered at, and now I'm working there. So now I can be a role model for these women that are coming into detox. Not only that, but I've been on welfare since 1998, you know, and I never thought there was any way out of that. I'm off welfare and I don't get food stamps anymore. I'm not knocking it, but you know what? I pay for my own stuff now, you know, and it's all because of the structure and because I have, you know, I mean, I wouldn't even be able to do it if I didn't have affordable housing, because even making the money that I make, I still wouldn't be able to pay full rent. So Time for Change helps. I mean, the affordable housing, it helps us. It helps us so much, because I have 3 girls. I have one in high school, and the clothes that they, you know, they always want to have the most fashionable things. They always want to have, and I have 3 girls, you know. So Time for Change just, how can I say this? Time for Change has given me a good life, you know, and it helps so much to have that affordable housing, because I don't know what I would do without it, really, honestly. Rent $1,000 for a 2-bedroom, yeah, I wouldn't be able to do it. But thanks to Time for Change that I'm making leaps and bounds, you know, and hopefully, you know, later on, I'm excited to see where I'm gonna be next year, because who knows, maybe I can pay that $1,000, you know, but I just want to say that I'm really grateful for Time for Change, and I wish there was more places like this. You know, when I see women and children like on the street, on the bus, you know, I just bought a car, you know, me. I never thought I would be able to do that. But when I see women and children that they don't have no place to stay, I wish that they could have everything that I have now, everything that I gained. I wish there was another place that, you know, I wish there was more places like Time for Change Foundation. That's all.
Stacy Pena.
Hi, my name is Stacy. I've been with Time for Change for 2 years. I came to Time for Change and my kids were in the foster system. I didn't have them for 3 years. I was lost. I had no direction. I had been homeless for the previous 5 years. I started off in the shelter, and I started taking steps towards getting my kids back. I had so much support from the women, from Miss Carter, from the rest of the staff. After being at Time for Change for 6 months, I was able to gain full custody of my 9 and 4-year-old kids back. After being in the shelter for about 7 months, I was moved into my own 2-bedroom apartment with my kids. My kids have their own room. They've been in the same school for the past 2 years. My daughter's doing softball and violin, and that's something that I never thought that I could give to my kids. We go home to the same house every night. I was able to get a job at Loma Linda Hospital. I work at the medical center. I've been there for the past 1.5 years. And me being able to get up and go to work every day on time, not late, and doing the right thing is the biggest accomplishment for me. I'm 23 years old, and I'm changing my whole life around to what it used to be before. I'm an honest person. I have integrity, and without Time for Change, I wouldn't have any of this stuff. I've hit obstacles. And I know that if I wasn't in this program, those obstacles that I would hit, I would have never been able to get through. My kids have friends, I have sisters, I have mentors. The groups, they have taught me so much about myself, and I think that women out there need a program like this. This has completely changed my life. I am an active member in society, so I think that houses like this would benefit women everywhere.
We have Shani Reed. Sarita.
Hi, good evening. I'm Sarita. I just want to say hi to everybody. I just want to say, I love Time for Change, of course. When I first came to Time for Change, I was in seek of getting my 2-year-old son out of CFS custody. I did rehab in Bloomington, which is by Rialto, you know? But I didn't have nowhere to go after I got out of rehab. Nowhere at all. You know what I mean? People gave me Time for Change Foundation. They accepted me. I came in to the single woman shelter. I started off with 2 hours. Then I went to 4. Then I went to 8. Then I went to overnights. They still didn't want to give me my baby back. Not at all. You know, I did what the courts asked me to do twice. Not once, but twice. And they still didn't want to give me my baby back. After the first time I went to court, I was denied. Second time I went to court, this beautiful woman right here, she went in the course and she brought my baby home on an extended stay, which was the biggest blessing I could ever have. September 5th, I brought him home permanently. This September 5th was a year. I've been in Time for Change for a year. Since I've been at Time for Change, I've gotten my babies back, my son back, and I've gotten overnights with my other children. I started off at the Mountain View shelter, which is a single woman shelter. Then I progressed to the women and children's shelter. Now I have my own fully furnished apartment at her first Phoenix Square. It's beautiful, fully furnished. There's beautiful. You wouldn't even imagine where I live at today would be an affordable housing for people like us. Time for Change has helped us out. Like the last time I was here, we're asking for housing, and now we have an opportunity. So I'm just like, hear our voices out. Hear our children. I heard somebody earlier say they support the children. Well, you have to support the mothers too in order to support the children, because the mothers are the ones supporting the children. So I'm like, help us, support us. Don't tell us yes and then tell us no. Just go ahead and support what we're doing, because it's positive and we don't have no negativity behind our belt. So I'm just like, hear our voices, hear our cries, and try to support us. Thank you.
Richard Burnett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council and staff. I have come to talk on tab 12. There is a definite need for a project such as this. It's obvious. But the thing, now don't get too excited. I am for the plan, but I am not in favor of the location in the downtown, in the cottage commercial specific plan of the city of Rialto. I don't think this is a wise place to place it. The concept is fabulous. There is definitely a need, but good critical thinking on the part of good placement is essential. Reviewing with our police department, our excellent police department and fire department that stand out in the Inland Empire, input from them for a proper place, should they desire that, would be very important. So my suggestion is to get your homework done in a proper location that's safe and that will work. Don't jump into something that's going to please a few people but be a sore spot later on. And I thank you so much for the time to be here.
Next speaker, Lynette McGee.
Good evening. My name is Lynette McGee. I am so, I am really touched by this group of people who have taken the time. Time for Change I have heard of for months. And I am from San Bernardino. I live in CCLM housing. I've been there for 16 years. I run one of the houses there. I was a client when I got there. So from being a homeless mother, I can relate. Having my children taken from me for asking help, I can relate. Being denied my children 2 or 3 times, I can relate. I am just appalled at the thought that a group of people who have agreed to something can just step back and say no. Children need mothers. Mothers need backing. And we look at the council, the people that make the decisions. Maybe there should have been some thought put into this. Really, like the gentleman just said, location. I'm a location gal. I'm a senior citizen. I've been with this CCLM for 16 years, like I said, and I came from the bottom. Okay, I've been out there on the streets homeless with my children, sleeping in doorways, alleyways, wondering where is their next meal coming from? What do I have to do? And I'm not up for begging. Okay, I've armored up and I've done what a lot of these women are doing. They're looking for help. Okay, they're looking for backing, and some more thought needs to be put into this. They need to be safe. They need to get that education, that get up and go, that someone's beat them down to say, oh, well, you're not worthy. And I think that some of them feel that way right now, hearing that, oh, we're just going to can this whole project. It's not worth it. They're not worth it. I think they are. I know they are. And those babies. You have children? All of you? Possibly. Would you want this to be happening to your children if you were in this position? I think not. I also am a part, I've got my toes in everything, my phalanges. They're all over the place. I'm advocating for HIV, AIDS. I'm a potential candidate for the HIV Planning Council in San Bernardino. And we're doing the same thing there, trying to find the funding to do for people that don't have the ones that are trying to get up after they've been knocked down by life. And sometimes our getting up is a heck of a whole lot slower than the first knockdown. But the point is, getting knocked down, falling 7 times, get up 8. I applaud these women because they've been knocked down quite a few times. And yeah, we do have to crawl or get up. The point is getting up and backing them up. I wish, and I pray that you all of you council members consider, take it back and look at it again. Take it back and have another look at it. Just don't let it drop. Bam. Don't do that to them. Please don't do that to them. They're just as human as you are. They just don't have what you have. They're trying to get it. Give them that break. Thank you.
Joanne Gilbert.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Joanne Gilbert, and I have been listening to what has been said so far. And I want to come from another angle. I'm a 32-year resident of the city of Rialto. I've done my due diligence in being a part of this community, and I take pride in living here in the city of Rialto. And I believe that I will always aspire to make where I live a progressive and decent place that practices diversity and does not promote cultural bias. When I listen to these ladies come to talk to you, to tell you how they feel and what their needs are, I think about the city of Rialto. I think about Phoenix Square in the city of San Bernardino, the housing area, the multi-unit housing area in San Bernardino. And I know that sometimes people have fear about something coming that they are not used to. And why not at the location that is proposed on Riverside Avenue and Rialto Avenue? Why not that area? I have looked at that vacant land for years with nothing there but blight. And when someone wants to come and build a facility in that area that will enhance women and children and be in a location where there's transportation, where they can move around and get to work and go to school, I cannot say why not. We need to think about more than living in the past. When I was on the school board for Rialto for 13 years, my motto was, we train children for their future, not our past. We can't live in the past. The world is changing around us, and we have to get on board, or we'll be left behind. The city of Rialto was stagnant for many, many years with no progress at all. But now we're progressing and we're doing great things and preparing for the future. And that future includes women and children. When you look at the news and you see people running for public office, who do you see running for public office? Females. Because they have found out in order to get jobs done, sometimes you need a female there to help do it. So I was just speaking with someone who's in charge, our city planner, who gave me some facts that I think all of us need to understand. Rialto has no sanctioned traditional housing. Time for Change could count toward the city's required housing needs assessment of 636 units. Rialto has no housing options, no emergency housing options. And Rialto has no temporary housing options to serve the homeless. Now, these facts were put out by the Southern California Association of Government, or SCAGs. And we have until 2021 to become compliant in some of these things that we're not doing. So what would be a better place to start than with Time for Change? And when I read when Mr. Trujillo put on wanted to change or counsel the request for the proposed pre-development services, there was no rationale behind it. What was the rationale behind making this request? That's what I would like to know. We have to start off with that first. What was the reason? What brought about the reason to change something that was voted on back in July? Thank you.
Next speaker, Daniel P.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, City Council. I have a special request from an elderly, sickly woman in the crowd who is on the list. She asks if she could kindly be moved up and be next so that she can get home and rest. Miss Beverly Earl, is that okay?
After Mr. Peden, then we can have her move.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, City Council, staff, members of the public. I also would like my colleague Michael Townsend from Senator Connie Leavitt to join me up here. I had submitted a letter, a joint letter from Senator Leyva and Assemblymember Reyes for you guys to review. It's a joint letter on support for this feasibility study. I also want to make a brief statement here. My name is Daniel Peden. I'm with Assemblymember Reyes' office. I'm her district representative here in the city of Rialto. I also am a longtime citizen of the city of Rialto, born and raised here. Well, I wasn't born here, born in San Bernardino, raised here. And I'm also the communications director for the Assemblymember. It is my understanding, as I said, the joint letter was from both Senator Connie Leyva and Assemblymember Reyes in support of the feasibility study agreement that was approved by the City Council on July 10th of this year, was given to you and put into public record. It is important to both Senator Leyva and Assemblymember Reyes that the City Council continues to support affordable housing for residents of Rialto, especially in areas that are near active transportation routes and public transit. The Time for Change Foundation has been a committed partner to community members of the Inland Empire for over 15 years, and they've also mentioned over 10 years here in the city of Rialto, serving folks in the city of Rialto. Their commitment servicing women and children through their Phoenix Square affordable housing project has been identified as the standard for low-income housing in California, providing a safe place where families can live and thrive. As policymakers, we all agree that affordable housing is not only important, but a necessity for our residents. The housing project the feasibility study will analyze is an important step in realizing affordable housing for our most vulnerable population. On behalf of Assemblymember Reyes and Senator Connie Leyva, I urge the City Council to continue to support the contractual agreement with the Time for Change Foundation. And I'll let Michael Townsend, if he wants to say a few words.
I won't belabor the point. Mr. Peden is not authorized to speak on behalf of Senator Leyva, although the two of them, Senator Leyva and Assemblymember Reyes, are absolutely aligned in their perspective on this. And so the comments that he's made will speak for both members. Thank you.
Now, if you come forward and state your name, please, so we can pull it from the public comment.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. My name is Beverly Earl, and I am the board member of Time for Change, and I'm also Catholic Charities. And I just wanted to support Time for Change in their proposal for their feasibility study, but also I wanted to share with you that at Catholic Charities for fiscal year 17-18, we assisted 56 of your residents with rental payments in the city of Rialto, and that's totaling over $50,000. Catholic Charities receives no funding through the city of Rialto. Also, we've assisted 189 residents with utilities, that's lights, gas, and water, to keep their services on. Over 500 households received food assistance, clothing assistance, transportation, but the real number is the unmet need, because while we were able to assist, these are actual numbers of service, it's the 500 calls for rent that we wasn't able to help, because there's no resources. The demand is great. But your residents of Rialto have to go out your city to seek whatever services they can, because there's none in the city. So the feasibility study is very important of what the possibility might be, the housing for the residents here. When you say the word affordable, and that's one of my pet peeves with language, with words, well, you're going to miss a large percentage of your Rialto residents because they won't qualify for whatever you might build or establish under the word of affordable. They won't qualify. So you're going to be stuck with the same problem. So if you just have some political will to begin to, let's do the study, let's see what comes out of it, and let's really do something good for once for everyone. do a little affordable, do a little bit of low income. I know nobody wants to hear that word, but we have to. We have to stop playing the language game. We have folks living on $800 a month, and you can work, Amazon won't pay your rent in the city of Rialto, okay? That's just the way it is. I have enough clients, enough residents in all the cities, and we're really struggling here. Just trying to keep a roof over our heads. To get 40 hours a week is a dream. It's not there. We want it to be, but it's not. So I want to, again, support Time for Change. I am a board member. I'm a community activist. I work for Catholic Charities, and I see the problems every single day. And I'm looking for doing something once and for all in Rialto. You're it. Let's do it. It's a good thing to rethink the feasibility study. Thank you.
Mary Thompson.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. I won't be before you long because what more can be said? What more can be said? And there's some more of these phenomenal women that we need to hear from. But I was at Time for Change several weeks ago because I've had heavy on my heart the need for transitional housing and affordable housing. And I went to Ms. Carter and I said, Ms. Carter, it's been on my heart for a long time. I want to start transitional housing. And at that time, I didn't know that she was starting housing in Rialto as well. But you know, she didn't look at it as a competition or anything. That's not where her heart is. She sat me down and she said, Mary, this is what you need to do. And on her wall, it says, true leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders. And that's what Time for Change is about, helping women and children and creating more leaders. And that's what we need, isn't it? You know, we don't need more followers, we need more leaders. And at that time, one of the council members came in and he shared how he loved what was going on, what Time for Change was doing, you know, and he gave them an A+. I love this. I love what you're doing. You're doing wonderful things here. You know, I support you. You know, and we took pictures and everything, and I was just, you know, I was just so excited, you know, because I am a resident of Rialto. So my heart was broken when I heard that this very same council member was in opposition suddenly to this project. It's a study. It's only a study at this point. And I just want to ask that you reconsider and support the study.
Next person we have is Katarina Longmire.
Good evening. My name is Katrina Longmire. I'm at a loss for words. Time for Change, I believe in my heart, and I always have been. I've been on Time for Change, first of all, since July 11th of 2016. When I came to Time for Change, I was broken. I was a chronic alcoholic. I was chronically homeless over and over again. I had tried to apply for apartments, got denied because I didn't income qualify, you know. So a lot of doors are shut on me. But Time for Change, they opened their door for me. You know, Since being that time for change, I start off at the shelter, which I was amazed at the shelter. When you think shelter, you think something ran down and raggedy. It's not that. It's beautiful. My kids fell in love with it immediately. A little more backdrop about myself. I'm a CPS child. I started at CPS from the age of 5 to 18, meaning therefore I say that to say this, I've never had structure. Coming to Time for Change gave me that structure. I stayed at the shelter for 4 months. November 4, 2016, I was surprised with my own fully furnished 2-bedroom apartment for me and my children. Since being at Time for Change, I've been clean for 2 years. Sobriety date is July 8, 2016. I'm a mother today. My kids are striving in school. Before coming to Time for Change, they said my son couldn't read. They said that my kids were out of control. They're stable today. They're getting A's and B's. They're exceeding. I've been out of work before coming to Time for Change I'm 39 years old, so I've been out of commission for about 12 years. I'm fully employed at Stater Brothers. I'm a full-time student at Valley College. I'm thriving, and it's because a program like Time for Change took an opportunity on me, and I want for women just like me and my children to have that same opportunity. Please, I beg you, please reconsider. It's not where you live, but how you live. Thank you.
Kimberly Litch.
We're right along.
Hi, my name's Kimberly Litch. I'm in Time for Change Foundation. I've been there for 9 months. Before I was there, I was here running these streets. I was looking for shelter in these streets. I could not find it. I was living at your parks with no electricity. I was doing the most. I've been in your jail I don't know how many times. I'm very grateful for this program. I've been in a couple other programs and they wouldn't fight for me like this program has fought for me. I fought for my life. I just got off work. I didn't know what was going on right now, so I stepped out. And we do a lot for you guys when it's time to vote. And we do a lot for the community. And we do a lot of footwork. And that's because that comes from our hearts, We just, I really don't know what to say. That's all I have to say, really. Thank you.
Lisa Foster.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Foster, and I've been with Time for Change for maybe about a week. And since I've been there, they've given me so much support. I mean, I have a CPS case, and they've been facilitating for me because when you have a CPS case, no one helps you. They just take your kids and just let you figure it out yourself. Well, since I've been there, they've been facilitating for me. They've been helping me out so much. I mean, I've gained so much support from these ladies. It's an awesome program, and I'm proud. I'm lucky to be here. I really am. And I've been incarcerated. I'm in recovery. I've had a long, hard life. I'm 47 years old, and I get a second chance today. And I'm so proud of that. I'm going to take the opportunity to, take it and run with it. And these ladies have given me that. Time for Change is an awesome program, and I'm lucky to be here. And I need housing. After I complete this program, I'm going to need housing to bring my baby to, and just please reconsider and just give us a chance. Thank you.
Rosemary Mendez.
So I'm Rosemary, and I've been with the program now for 4 months. Before coming to this program, I was homeless, I was broken, and I lost all my children. Not knowing where I was gonna go or even what I was gonna do, but I knew I was lost and I knew I needed help. Now, I never knew there was a program like Time for Change. But when the program found me, I could tell you, just being there in 4 months, I'm in reunification with all my kids. I'm just about getting, overnights with all my children. I have a job, a steady job. I'm fully employed as well. And I just want to say that I've lived in the city of Rialto prior to me being homeless. And it was hard, very hard, because I had to do it on my own. Trying to afford $950 of rent and still pay my bills and still provide for my children on a daily basis was very difficult for me. And I went to the extreme to do that. But I fell at rock bottom. And you know what? Time for change was there for me. So when they have opportunities to expand, you know, I don't see why anybody or anything would object to that. This program has given all of these women, plus more women and children, something to look forward to, a future. You know, I want to give my kids everything, but I cannot give them that if they don't have any kind of stability. I don't want my kids to be gang members, but if they don't have a home to go home to every night, they will be. I don't want my kids to be drug addicts, but if they don't have a home to go home to every night, they will be. So I too ask that you guys reconsider and to move forward with the project. Thank you.
Next speaker, Amy Durante.
Good evening, everybody. Okay, so the homeless situation in San Bernardino County is no secret to anybody. We all see it. We all drive past it on our way home from work every night. As we're going to our comfortable houses, you know, to make dinner and take a shower and sleep in our own bed, we look away. We turn away from the people we drive past. And as we go into our comfortable homes, then those people are in the cold, a lot of them with children. I started out as a client with Time for Change Foundation, and now I'm staff, and I answer calls all day long from people that have no housing, people that even have jobs but just can't afford their rent, because rent, you have to make 3 times the amount of rent pretty much anywhere to be able to afford your place. So some of these people are working, they have children, single home families. There's a lot of people that are out there, and it's hard. And as we all go home to our comfortable houses at night, you know, we all look away, we all do it. People ask for change, and, you know, we just go on, you know, about our way. But there's people like Miss Carter. She doesn't look away. And she has taken all of us and given us affordable housing. She has given us a second chance at life. We are all now productive members of this society. We work, we take care of our children, we have savings, we pay our taxes, we vote. Not only do we vote, but we have civic engagement, and we get the community to have their voice be heard as well. We're very active in this community, and Ms. Carter is not even from Rialto, and she wants to come in here and help this city out. And this isn't even her place. And she wants to clean up your city. And you guys are the elected officials, and really it should be your guys' job making sure that this stuff is taken care of. These people that are out there, that's your guys', that should be what you should be worried about, and that should be what you want to happen. And she just wants to help out with that. And that's all I have.
Natalie Miranda.
Well, hello, Mayor. Hello, City Council. Hello. My name is Nally. I was a drug addict for 30-some years. I've been clean and sober 15 months. I talk to my kids now. At first, they didn't want to talk to me because I was a drug addict. Now I'm doing good. I have a savings. I have grandkids that love me. I'm self-sufficient today. I'm trying to do my best, you know. I don't drink. I don't think about drugs. Thanks to Time for Change. You know, Miss Carter's been big support to me, and all staff, even Miss Phyllis. Miss Phyllis is not here today, but yeah. If you guys could reconsider and help, you know, we do need, you know, mothers do need their kids back, and Time for Change is a good foundation. Let me tell you. Like I said, I've been clean 15 months, and this is the longest. I don't even think about drugs today, thanks to Time for Change.
Can't make out your last name.
Good evening. My name is Rhonda Taiwu. Everybody has said everything. I really don't want to reiterate. What I do want to say, what could possibly go wrong if we built something like this? What could go right? After all these women have spoken of how they've been reunited with their children, what if Rialto did the same thing as San Bernardino is doing? You know, what could possibly go wrong besides another woman getting off of drugs? What can go wrong with another woman getting her kids back? You know, what can go wrong with another woman getting another job, getting her credit fixed? Not only do they help you get housing and get your life straight, but they're moving forward to helping with your credit, helping with, you know, life situations, getting your record expunged, and like teaching you how to vote, teaching you how to have a voice, teaching you, it's not just even just getting your kids back, it's teaching you how to be a woman, not just a, you know, never mind, something else that you shouldn't be. But I've become a lady, a member of society in a different way. I didn't have a program like this when my kids were young. My kids are adult. When I came here a year ago, I get a do-over. I have 5 grandkids now, but they didn't have this when I was going through what they, you know, going through. So I don't want them to be 47 years old and be up here saying, "Rialto, can you help me?" Thank you.
Betty Muhammad.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
With due respect to Mayor Deborah Robinson and the council, I really had not planned to say anything tonight. However, I am a little familiar with Time for Change and what they're trying to do. And I think it's very, very noble to have women to come forth and try to do for themselves. I look back at history, and as Kim spoke about what women have had to fight for, yes, we've had to fight for almost every right, even to wear pants. I mean, really, we did. We had to fight to wear pants. I remember years ago when I first started as a teacher, we could not wear pants to work. And as a child, we could not wear pants to school unless we had a dress covering the pants, and that was only during the winter months when it was extremely cold. And of course, women had to fight for everything, and today there are still disparities in health against women. Men are treated better in the health field, and we know that. It's a given fact. So yes, we've had to fight for everything, and today these women are fighting once again. Now, I want to remind everyone that when you look at a nation of people, a nation is basically defined or judged by its treatment of women and children. You can go throughout history and you look at third world nations, and when you find them at that lowest level, you look at the women and look at the children. And when the women and the children are mistreated, it reflects throughout the entire nation. Now, I want to remind you also of the Bible, which is the book of this land, of this country, okay? And we all know that throughout the Bible, there are like 80-something references to widows. But widows are not just a woman who's lost her husband. According to biblical terms, a widow is a woman who doesn't have a male to take care of her and to provide for her. So I just wonder, is the United States and Rialto in particular ready to look like a third world nation because you don't want to help women provide for themselves. It's the responsibility of men to take care of women in a society. I have a motto that I use a lot, and we use a lot, and we've been taught to use a lot, and that is a nation can rise no higher than its woman. Because it's the woman who really, when you look at the female, you determine what kind of a nation is this. So if you look at a nation full of, I guess you can say, I don't want to use those kinds of words, but anyway, a nation where you have all women who are particularly naked, then you look at the reflection of the entire society. But when you look at a nation where women are acting civilized, women have a place to live, women have a place to prepare to take care of their children, because it's the women who are the teachers of a society. Women who don't have a place to live, women who cannot take care of their children, what can they teach to their children if they can't even provide a place for them to take care of just domestic things that are needed? I believe all the men in here can really pay great respect to the women in their lives, their mothers, who took care of them and kept them in a place that was decent. So I just believe that with what Time for Change is asking for, we consider it, or the council consider it greatly, because the population, from what I understand, of homeless women and children is increasing. So if it's increasing, what is the city going to look like in the next few years? When you have women and children out on the street, where are the men? Where are the men who are supposed to provide for the women? That's what we love about our men, right? That they are supposed to be providers and maintainers of the women. No, really, this is all scriptural. That you're supposed to be the maintainers of women. And this is not much that they're asking for to help them to take care of themselves. So I think that it really, really needs to be reconsidered, that you really have to think about your role as men, and because look at the council, it's dominated by men. So even if you took a vote tonight, I hope it's not that the men will say, no, we are not going forward with this, because if you say that, you are allowing the women to just stay out on the streets, and that will define your society. Thank you.
Last speaker, you have Nutan Patel.
Respectful Mayor and members of the City Council. I met Kim several months ago, and this was a surprise from my supervisor at the architecture firm that I work for. And one morning he came and said, we have a meeting with Kim Carter, and she runs this foundation. I went to my desk and researched everything. I'd heard about her a lot before. She's a CNN hero, and many people in this country voted for her to be a CNN hero. She does great work for this foundation. She's a very strong woman that I aspire to be, just like her. She has done so much work in this community, San Bernardino County. She's doing such a good work in the Northern California. And I was frankly surprised to hear about this meeting today, and wanted to come and support her and see what happened. Because we propose a wonderful project for these women to call home. And this is what architects do, this is what cities do, and this is what the City Council should be doing. Thinking about how they are going to build their city up, provide their citizens a place to live, place to call home. And that should include all citizens. Not just a pretty white house on a hill. Where is everybody else going to live? It is our responsibility as designers, architects, a founding member of a foundation, a mayor, and all of you gentlemen here, to provide good housing for all citizens in the city. And I seriously want to request all of you to reconsider not just to do the feasibility study, but to actually move forward with the project. Once you build this project, you would want to build more. I can promise you that. We have seen a successful project in San Bernardino, and you will see a successful project in Rialto. Please do consider our request. Thank you.
Okay. Does that conclude the public comments?
Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. Yes.
Before we close the
Treasurer.
comments, I'd like to make a comment on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, yes, well, I wasn't closing it, though. Go ahead.
Okay, great.
Yes,
Thank you. So as you know, I am the president of the Chamber of Commerce, and since last week I've fielded probably over 10 calls regarding this item, tab 12. And I don't think they have any objections to the fine work that Time for Change has done, nor what they're proposing. Their objection is solely the location of the proposed project. So perhaps maybe they need to reconsider the study and find an alternative location. But the only objection I've heard throughout all the calls was strictly with the location of the project, not what the Time for Change does. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, for taking the time to come out and express your concerns with this project. As it said on the agenda, this was something we had already voted on, and this was something that was requested by one of our colleagues, and so I was going to give him an opportunity to speak to it, but I noticed that I see some gentleman was raising his hand, but did you put in a public comment? Did you? Oh, they didn't call your name? Well, come on up and step to the, and would you just state your name, please?
Yes, my name is Benjamin Schuler.
Mr. Schuler? Okay.
And I am the founder of the Hole in the Wall, which is a drop-in center in Moreno Valley for homeless people. And I'm here on behalf of Time for Change and Kim Carter. And I am also a member of the Nation of Islam. We have a mosque down on Baseline, and I've done years of boots on the ground work in Rialto. And there is a lot of women on the street in Rialto, and there is no place to send them but outside of Rialto. So I'm not going to be long because you didn't call me the proper way, but it's okay. I just want to talk about that reconsideration word. And reconsider only means considering something again, especially for a possible change of decision regarding it. There was an idea of location. That's fine. But the most important thing is that the women on the streets that I run into, and they're homeless, and they're looking for a way out, and all they're looking for is a second chance, a second opportunity to get their life right. It may be someone you know. It may be someone you know that knows someone that you know that are out there looking for a way out. And all we're doing on behalf of Time for Change Foundation, and you've heard the ladies. Ladies, stand up from Time for Change, but all of y'all stand up. These are a lot of lives right here. Give them a hand. These are a lot of lives right here that are being touched. And I broke my schedule to come over here in behalf of Time for Change. And I've met Madam Mayor and the City Council for the opportunity to be in here. But I want to let you know that this is a positive thing. And so the city of Rialto needs something positive that they can look back on, because they don't have anything like that. When I get that phone call and they say they're in Rialto and they say they're homeless, I got to send them to San Bernardino somewhere, because there's nowhere to send them here. There's no opportunity for them here. And the taxpayers' dollars come in so we can provide opportunity for everyone to get a do-over. Everybody needs a do-over. You know, you ever got up in the morning and you made your coffee and it just didn't taste right and you make another cup? It's called a do-over. We all had those days. And so basically what we're saying here, the idea that we're discussing for reconsideration. That's all we're talking about, is just reconsidering. Don't say you have to go along with it. Just say reconsider what you voted on, and look at whether or not is this a need, or is this something that we just want to give. Well, in this city, I've done a lot of boots on the ground. I've talked to a lot of homeless people. I've talked to a lot of people that's on substance abuse on your street, and they're looking for a way out. And it's very sad for me to tell them that there is no place here for them to even consider checking into. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. And again, I apologize. I don't know what happened with your paper. I didn't receive them, and the clerk looked, and she doesn't have a copy in her files as well. But oh, there was no name on it?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. And so I know that others probably have, like I was saying to begin with when I started this, was that this was brought back by one of my colleagues, and it was also requested, I guess, at the July 28th council meeting. And so I want to give him the opportunity to maybe share his perspectives, and as well as the other colleagues. But I just want to be very clear right now, before we even go further, is that I know what I was voting on in July 10th. I voted for this, and my vote will not change. So however my colleagues choose to vote, I still know that this is something that I said on Friday, and I'll say it here, that it is time for Rialto to be held to a higher standard as well, and that we need to address areas that we have not addressed when it comes to affordable housing and the housing need requests, the regional housing needs assessment. There's 4 categories: emergency shelter, transitional shelter, homeless shelter, and affordable shelter. And I have asked our Director of Economic Development Housing to let me know, have we had any affordable housing projects in the last 10 years that have been brought in that's new, to your recollection?
That are new?
New construction.
The last one that we completed new construction would have been the Teleq 3 project, and that was in 2012.
2012, and were Teleq also considered special needs, that they fall under seniors?
They were senior housing.
Senior housing.
And they didn't apply for the tax credits, so there really isn't a
Tax
special
credits,
needs category for that.
And so there was a comment too made earlier, and I've heard this before about this being some special cottage zone, and I believe one of our residents spoke to that. And I would appreciate if you could maybe speak to that, or either ask the planning manager to speak to what is the zoning that we're referring to, because there is residential in the area as well.
Well, the zoning for the particular parcel that's being considered is cottage commercial. As with the KDF project that preceded it, and typically with affordable housing projects, we have to look at zone changes and make accommodations, sometimes density bonuses to make the project work. So we would have to look at a similar concept here, and that's the purpose of the due diligence agreement, quite frankly, is to look at what zoning concessions are required.
Thank you. And then the other thing, you mentioned the locations, and in the feasibility study, did we not come back and give direction for us to look at all of our public sites that are in the downtown area where we have public land?
We did identify all of the publicly owned parcels for consideration. So there were several parcels, some kind of cat-a-corner from here. There were others scattered throughout the city that were looked at as well. Some had size issues. They just weren't large enough to accommodate a project, or they may have had neighborhood compatibility issues as well.
But we still haven't done the full study of all the sites.
No, as far as the publicly owned properties, we've tried to identify most of them that are suitable for residential. There are obviously privately held properties that could be considered as well.
And then just one other question. Speaking of location, and to the representative for the chamber, he talked about people filling location and prime spot. Have we had any contacts with anyone in the last 6 months or year that has come to us in speculation of any kind of commercial development they'd like to see on the property?
Not for that particular property, no. And we haven't marketed it, so I have to say that, but nobody has independently come to us and asked about a commercial development there.
And how long has it actually been vacant?
We purchased the corner site in 2006, and then we assembled some of the other parcels before that. I think the last parcel we purchased was from the successor agency or the redevelopment agency in 2011 or 2012.
Okay, all right. So those are things that I hear of a concern, and this was, like I said, a feasibility study, but it was desired to be brought back. So I don't know if Councilmember Trujillo wanted to speak to it, or if any of the other colleagues who I believe did have a discussion on the 28th about bringing this back for discussion. But just so the community knows and everyone knows, just to bring something back when we've already taken action for a discussion, we need to have it on the agenda for us to determine what is the action. If you want to bring something back, why put it on the agenda for a discussion? So I was clear with that, and I asked Councilmember Trujillo if he wanted it to be back on the agenda on Wednesday to rescind the contract, and he said yes. So with that, I'll let you go.
Thank you. Again, Councilmember Trujillo, and I want to thank everyone for coming out. I also want to thank, I know Vanessa and Amy for giving me the tour of the Time for Change facility. As some of you mentioned, yes, I did take the tour of the facility. Again, I was able to visit, I believe it was the headquarters as well as the 3 of the sites, and they were clean. The facility that was on, I believe it's D Street or F Street, was really impressive of the architecture and the work. And I got to meet many of the ladies that were being assisted, and that was very encouraging that they were able to connect with, trying to connect with their kids, trying to connect with employment. There's a lot of great services coming out of there, and I did mean every word that I said, that there was some good services. And I came out very pleased with that. Afterwards, I did have some concerns. I did try to talk to the staff about maybe the way the planning stage was happening. When the July 10th agenda item came up, it was in the consent items. And part of the issue with that was that the wording was kind of vague. It gave one location. It mentioned that there was a fourplex, and it mentioned that there was another building with 4 bedrooms in it. Since then, it has changed. And really, we haven't had a time to, as a council, to really start talking about not just the project, but the bigger picture. We never had the opportunity to talk the bigger picture of our plans for downtown Rialto, or even the idea of transitional housing. I mean, that just came up, not as part of a full discussion among us, but that came up as a consent item. So I wanted to make sure that if we're going to go ahead and address this project, that it'd be kind of early on, and we would have a community forum kind of at the beginning, where we kind of be able to kind of take in a lot of the information that you provided here today, as well as information from the rest of the community. And that's where I am. It was very quick to learn about the project. I did have, again, concerns with the location as well, because I think one of the things that when I was talking to small business owners was that they wanted kind of an anchor for downtown to kind of bring more people to come and shop and be able to spend their money. And they were looking for like a commercial kind of site for it. They were unaware that the project was being planned near the strip of Riverside Avenue. And so, and part of my discussions, I was also alarmed that there wasn't really discussion even internally within the city. You know, I did talk to our police chief and I believe some of the fire leaders, and I didn't get a sense that there was really a discussion going on even among the city officials. And I'm happy to hear some of the statistics that was given to us from Time for Change, which was the 0 calls and the ability for the women to kind of work together, and that was really interesting to kind of hear those statistics. But again, I was more I have to look at the bigger picture. I agree with all these letters that came in and what many of you guys have said, because I think the program is great. But as a council member, I have to actually look at how the business is being dealt with outside of the services that you provide, how this came about, and how I have to, as a council member, work with the business of managing the contract or being able to discuss the contract. And I haven't had the opportunity to do that as well. I did in the last two council meetings talk about the importance of being able to kind of discuss this publicly. I also had, again, over and over again, I talked about the location. And I just felt like the discussion wasn't really kind of going in this direction that we are having today, where we're kind of all sitting at the table and really talking. You know, I'm still interested in kind of looking at the new location, and I'm also interested in some other transparent ways of dealing with this city contract. Before the budget came about, and actually before Measure M, we had a budget advisory committee that reviewed every aspect of our budget and every aspect of the city. So much that one of the recommendations that they had was to discuss the way we do city travel, for example. That we have to write a paragraph was one of the recommendations to justify our city travel. But yet they had no discussion or any involvement with any housing. You know, one of the questions I asked the Budget Advisory Committee was housing one of the discussions that the Budget Advisory Committee discussed? And really there was no discussion about housing in general. And again, it leads to the point of us not really being able to come together and really have a good discussion of what our vision is for the city, what our vision was for the downtown area, what our vision is even for the housing. You know, a lot of the discussion that's been happening really is something that we needed to have. And so, again, I'm willing to work with this project. Again, as long as we have some involvement from the Budget Advisory Committee on this, as well as looking at different locations, alternative locations for this, so that, you know, we can have a properly design community for our residents. That's kind of the direction I'm heading in. And again, I just want to thank you for all the words and for the testimony that many of you gave here today. I know it takes a lot to come before the government body, and I appreciate that. You know, and I agree with a lot of what you've said. But again, going back, you know, as a council member, I have to look at the bigger picture, and I have to kind of look at the financing. They mentioned $8 million is going to be raised for this project. I just want to make sure for this project okay, and I want to make sure you know that the finances are transparent as well. Another area that I'm looking at is the way we're dealing with this city contract. It's a city contract. And the way we've come up to this point is I was, you know, as many of you were surprised that this was on the agenda, I was surprised at the way that the city contractor approached my, you know, living as well, you know, trying to pressure me through my boss. Because I try to keep things separate. This is something that I, as a council member, work on. And I work as a case manager for the other side, for my day job. And I just didn't appreciate kind of the strong arming that happened and trying to threaten kind of my living as well. So there's just a lot that's going on. I want to make sure that we're working together and talking and communicating and being able to be more transparent. And so that's where I'm coming. So I'm willing to work and move in that direction of making sure that there's a budget advisory committee involved, looking at other locations, and really being able to continue communicating. So,
okay,
that's where I'm coming from.
Is that it? Councilmember Baca Jr., you have any comments, or Councilmember Carousels?
I know Carousels does, but I'll reserve. I'll let him go first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I just want to thank you guys for coming out and voicing your opinion. I did take the tour and with Vanessa and Kim and Mrs. Carter, and initially I didn't even know what I was touring. I've never been to a facility, and so what kind of got me by surprise is the organization and the discipline and the people that were working for Kim Carter, and what they do and the impact that they have in the community. And it dawned on me that we don't have anything like that here in Rialto. And initially I thought it was going to be, this is like a second or third level of helping the, people get in, or women get into, from transitional into a stable life. And, as we toured the facility, we actually went into a room, and I thought it was like a demo room because it was just spotless. There was toys, but they were in a box. Everything was put in place. The bed was made. Everything was amazing. And I thought, wow, I need to bring Vanessa over so she could teach my kids on how they could have some of that discipline here at my home. And so I was just thrown back by the discipline and everything that this organization stands for. And I did read that sign that said, true leaders don't create followers, they create new leaders, or more leaders. And I believe that Kim Carter is creating more leaders because of the testimonies that everybody has given that we had already heard, but the fact that all these people here are true testaments of the work that Kim Carter has done. And so I just want to say I'm in support of the feasibility study, and I want to make sure that it moves forward. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
How you doing, Kim? We go back a long ways. Yeah, I know, we all have. You know what? But that's what makes the world go round. We get up here, we debate, discuss, we hear things out, and we make decisions. So, I want to thank Kim Carter for coming here with Time for Change Foundation and all the ladies that came here, and families and children that are here voicing their opinion. And it's important that we listen to opinion. And with opinions, we make decisions. We make wise decisions, smart decisions. But one of the things, I have a few questions before I make some more comments. I saw in the report here that there was $2,850 spent so far. Rob, who was this spent by?
Those were expenditures by Time for Change, and that was through mid-August, I believe. So I'm sure they've incurred additional expenses since then.
Okay.
That was just the environmental soil sample contractor from the city of Rialto that got the work too.
Yeah, and I don't need any details, but I guess my question is, this is reimbursable, right?
Yes, everything that they've incurred to date in furtherance of this project would be reimbursable.
Okay, because I know they said that money was spent, but I just want to make it very clear that this money is reimbursable. So it is reimbursed to Time for Change, right?
Yeah, every
okay.
expense they incurred for this project we're obligated to reimburse.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that was very clear. The other question, I know it was mentioned in 2012, the Telecu was the last project, I guess affordable housing project. And part of the reason why those senior projects went away is because 202 housing was taken away, right, by the federal government, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in regards to future affordable housing sites here in Rialto, what is it that Josh LaBarge is working on at this time in Rialto?
Well, he owns the Park Place project at Willow and Jackson, and we're also talking to him about the property that we've held for years across the street, the former RDA owned, about building an annex there.
Okay, and what is he looking at putting there?
I think it is approximately 12 units, something that would be comparable to what's across the street.
So would you consider that affordable housing?
It would be affordable because the site has to be used for that purpose.
Okay, but in regards to the piece, there's also a piece close to the MetroLink, right?
We have an agreement with, I'll say National Core. It's a conglomerate of a couple of entities, but for 38 units.
Okay, so National Core. What would the price points be for that project, the National Core?
Oh boy, it's been a while since I've looked at their proposed rents.
Roughly. Just
I was going to say their target was very low-income households, so 35% of median, 50% of median, because they score better in the tax credit competitions when they do that, so they would be deeply discounted rents, and I'd say probably for a two-bedroom unit, it's $800 a month.
so there is intent to put affordable housing there, right?
Yes.
Low-income housing.
Yes.
All right, so I want to make things very clear. I know it was said tonight that we have no plans on affordable housing. There are plans in the works. So I want to make sure that's very, very clear. In regards to the Santa Barbara project on 5 Points, that's apartments, right?
Those are apartments, those are market rate.
Right, market rate. All right, and we know the market's a little high right now. We get that.
I think they're $1,600 to $2,000.
Right, okay. But I just want to make things very clear that this council does have intent on putting affordable housing in the city. I know it was said that we weren't. I want to make sure it's known that this money that has been expended, is reimbursable. I want to make sure that's very, very clear. Now, in regards to, some of the comments that were made, about being a male-dominated council, being sexist, you know what? I am who I am. I'm a male here, but, I have a beautiful wife that I love. I have 3 beautiful children. I have 2 grandchildren, and what I teach my girls is to be independent, to be able to take care of yourselves. So I don't want it to be thought that I'm up here as a, machismo man that's insensitive to women. I love my wife. She's very independent. She does a good job. Yeah, my mother. And I want to make sure that's very clear to you. I don't want, a picture being painted that we're sexist, at least at me. I can speak for myself. And my colleagues can speak for themselves. But in regards to this project, now, I know there were some comments made, and some people were talking about location and other things. Clearly, these women need some help. They need some help, all right? And your children need you. Your children need you to get it together, and so we can have a better place. I know this will address some homeless issues. This will address some single mother issues. And I'm not opposed to the project. I don't want you to think I'm up here opposed to the project. But I want to make sure, I know statements are made, and sometimes I want to make sure that there's a clear picture painted up here. So I'm open to the project. In regards to, I know that Ms. Carter was kind of nodding her head that she was open to looking at an alternative site. So I think that's one of the things that I would like to see the Rialto Housing Authority do, is look to another site, because there has been some concerns about the location, brought up by the chamber president, brought up by a constituent who has a small business and home near downtown, and I've got a few other calls that have been fielded, but there clearly is a need. All right, we don't want children and women sleeping in parks. I don't want to see that. I know there was a comment, kind of geared to me. Well, I spoke about kids. Of course I did. I want to see the best for kids and their families. I want to see these women get back on their feet and be able to take care of themselves. And there is a need in our community. And Rialto's not an affluent community. We're not a wealthy community. Yeah, we have some people that are doing a little bit better than others, but we're not a wealthy community. But I do appreciate people giving their opinions, showing their passion, the ladies showing their passion and sharing their stories with us. I think those are important for us to hear, and I'm not insensitive to any of that. I think those are important. But I would like Kim Carter to take a look at an alternative site. I'm open to it. I think we should be open. And just to give you an example, this was about probably 10 years ago when I first got on the council. I had this idea to do something at a park, and there was a big group that came out and opposed it. But we found an alternative site for that park. We ended up moving it to another place, and we're in a better place now. So, one of the things we have to talk about, I think we forget sometimes in this country, is the art of negotiating, the art of compromise, the art of, making adjustments. We just have to make adjustments, it's just part of it. But I'm open. I'm open to time for change. I want to thank Kim Carter for coming. I know she's nodding her head. She's open to another site, right, Kim? Yep. So they're open to another site. So I would like, staff to
study other options. That's
right.
what the study does. It gives you all the alternatives or possibilities in the city of Rialto.
So I'm open to that. I'm very open to that. So that concludes my comments. I want to thank all of you for coming and sharing your stories with me. Thank you.
Okay. Well, like I said, this is an action item, and to your point, Councilmember Baca Jr., I think, and I want to again reiterate, we gave directions to look at all sites, all public site, including even the property in front of us across the street. And to the comment that Councilmember Trujillo said about the plans or having a plan, we have a civic plan. And I asked Mr. Steele to pull that out and make copies available to everybody as to what we looked at as far as the downtown civic plan. You made a comment about private property that might be available. You haven't pointed out those positions or pieces that you were referring to, but again, I would like to make sure we have that along with us, and exactly how would we go about financing it? Because I think that was the other thing. And then the last thing I guess I really want to clarify, no, we are not saying that we haven't done some affordable and going to have some projects planned. They're also still, this is our second round, if I'm not mistaken, with Bonneview, and they have not been 3 times, and they haven't been successful on the financing and the tax structure they have. So while we keep, as a council and policy members, sit here and give guidance and opportunities for others to go, they're competing in a tax credit. This situation and this housing will fall under a different category, which is special needs, and there's dollars that are available that do not require us to have to, go after or race after the tax credits. So, I think it was stated already, it was stated previously, apparently wasn't shared. We asked for alternative sites to be looked at. We also had already scheduled for public meetings to be held with the Housing Commission, which was going to be held on September 19th, and to begin to look at where are we at, what's this project all about. So I don't know what your actions are. I think because it is an item, there needs to be a motion in a section on whatever we're going to do. But I did want to close my comments and say, I don't know, and I'm going to take personal issue with anyone keep saying that we're not being transparent when things are on the agenda. They're on the consent calendar. We're all up here responsible for knowing what's on the consent calendar, reading it and pulling it and speaking to it. And I know that you continue to say that, Councilmember Trujillo, and you're implying that somebody did something under him, but it was a public record and it was on the record. And so you continue to comment that someone, the staff or someone, was not being fully transparent. That is not the case. This is a public record. So,
question. Mr. Steele, in regards to, I know you mentioned that there's some private potential land available.
Well,
potentially.
Whenever we look for a location, I would consider all the potential sites. It does raise a question, where do you find the money to acquire the site? But at the end of the day, I think the project needs to be at the optimal location.
Sure.
So,
I was asking too, what private sites do you have in mind?
Well, I would just say, off the top of my head, you'd look along Foothill Boulevard. There are a number of sites along there that are potential sites that are privately held. The publicly held sites are all pretty much concentrated here that meet the size criteria. So you've got a couple of sites here, but you've got a much broader pool if you look to the private side.
Can a question, can the Rialto Housing Authority purchase some of those sites?
We could. It's basically just a
so it is an
monetary
option.
issue. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure
and we
that
might have to find grant money as well.
I just want to put that on the table just so you know it's an option, that's all. So the public knows it's an option.
Okay.
This is the first time we have heard. So far, we weren't told about any other site. So this is it. If you are thinking transparency, this is where we...
Okay.
Yeah.
But
generally, we don't, if you want to make comments again, we would come back to the point. The audience has no way, the viewing audience has no way of knowing who's in the audience speaking. So, okay.
Well, I would think just obviously you look to your inventory of sites that you already own, especially if it's owned by a housing authority. So that's your first, approach. And then secondarily, you would look into the private marketplace.
Okay. All right. So what's the pleasure?
Well, I know on the agenda it says to terminate the services agreement. I'm not in favor of that, so I'm not going to make a motion. The question is, and it gets to the city attorney, if we don't make a motion to terminate, do we just continue as is and we can still give direction to look at alternative sites?
That's exactly correct.
Okay, so I want to make sure we're very clear.
Proceed as approved.
Okay, thank you.
And I want to point out that the agreement itself is not specific on a site, so...
that helps too.
Okay. So what, no action?
No action unless there's a motion.
Unless there's a motion. Somebody want a motion, something.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Then we'll proceed. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Now we move on to tab number 5. Oh, boy.
until then.
Yeah.
Looks like I'm gonna be leaving too. I'm supposed to be driving down tonight. I'm like, time to get out of here.
Okay, wait a minute. Tab 5 is a request to approve a contract service agreement with Securitas Electronic Security, formerly Kratos, for annual access and intrusion alarm system monitoring, maintenance, and repair services in the not-to-exceed amount of $76,000, $218.96. In 2007, the city of Rialto entered into an agreement with Henry Brothers Electronics, which later became Kratos Public Safety and Security Solutions, which has now been purchased by Securitas Electronic Security. Securitas has provided excellent service for the city facilities over the past 10 years. They've proposed a 5-year contract for security monitoring and intrusion alarm systems. The city has been subscribing to the gold level plan, which includes same-day maintenance and repair services, 24 hours a day, and annual preventative maintenance inspections, annual alarm monitoring, and manufacturer software support. The city has had this plan since 2007. The first year cost for these services is $76,218.96. And historically, Securitas has had a 3% increase per year, which works out to about 15%, well, actually 15% over a 5-year period. The current proposal is a fixed 9.74% total price increase over the 5-year contract, with a cumulative total for these services at $399,026.23 for that 5-year period, reflecting the annual increases. Maintenance staff is in the process of assessing city facilities that are not currently included in the system, and looking to obtain estimates of what it would cost to include those and what other improvements would be needed in order to do that. And then attached to the staff report is the contract services agreement and the disclosure statement. So staff recommends that the City Council approve the contract service agreement with Securitas Electronic Security for annual access and intrusion system monitoring, maintenance, and repair services in the not-to-exceed amount of $76,218.96 for fiscal year 2018-19. And we have a representative here from Securitas, as well as Tony Brandyberry, our Public Works Superintendent, for any questions.
Anyone have questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
Is this contract involved with the electronic locking of the doors?
Yes, it is.
It is. So last Monday, the holiday, I experienced the finance department doors not being locked and people going in and out of the finance department, setting the alarm off. I had to call multiple people, and then suddenly this ton of people showed up at City Hall. But in talking to some staff members around City Hall, I found out that this is not an uncommon thing, that quite frequently on holidays, buildings are open up. In fact, I found out that Development Services has a deadbolt on its front door because it unlocks every holiday. So my question to you is that Kratos's problem, or is that just the fact that we're not programming the thing correctly?
So there's two things on that. The door in question last week was a door that has a manual lock. It does not have the electronic lock. So we do have some doors that do not have the electronic lock, and so that's one thing Tony is working on, is to identify all those doors, and we need to make that assessment of, in my opinion, is we probably want all of them to be electronic locked so that it's not relying on a manual locking process. The other part of that is it is a programming issue. So the electronic locks are designed to do exactly what has been programmed to be done. And so there's a calendar, and there's a couple of ways that could be. It could be a schedule system where you have to pre-program in the dates and the times and have the schedule. They could also set it up to where, and we've talked about this a little bit in sort of a roundtable that we had with staff to really understand what our options are. It could be a first scan unlock as opposed to being a time unlock. So there's a lot of options that they have with the software. And one of the things that Securitas is now bringing into the picture is ability to monitor remotely and be able to see those things and be able to address those things more remotely than we have been in the past. So there are some new features that they also have available. So a lot of this is a matter of us programming it to what we want it to be, and also to have the right hardware for what we want also. So it is both things.
Thank you for your lengthy answer, but you didn't answer my question. Let's start with the finance department first. You're now telling me it's a manual lock after everybody else in the city told me it was an electronic lock. So did somebody not lock the door when they left on Friday?
That particular door is not on the electronic lock. It is a
So
manual
did
lock.
somebody not lock the door when
Correct.
they left on Friday?
That is the only possibility for that.
Thank you. Now, as to the door on development services, I understand that's an electronic lock. So why do they have to have a deadbolt, which I don't see our building, well, he is back there, I think might not even be per the building code legal to have a deadbolt on a emergency exit door?
That should not be required as long as it's programmed to open.
So that takes me
accordingly.
to the real question I asked you. Who is responsible for programming those locks? And who does it?
Currently, the authorized programming is out of Human Resources, and that's just the way it's been set up since the beginning of the contract, I believe. So they have the administrative rights to schedule those, the calendar, if you will, for the scheduled opening and closing and locking. Now, there's also certain doors or buildings that have the ability to manually be locked through electronic lock, but manually and not by schedule. So that it can be however the city wants it to be in terms of some doors could be scheduled, some doors could be actually manually locked, even though they're electronically locked. They're actually triggered by an action by a user. So the system has a lot of capabilities. It's a matter of getting the programming or the setup the way we want it.
Okay, Mr. Ansari, can I, let me move over to you. I really want to vote on this item tonight, and I don't want to spend all night talking about it. But I am concerned that we have doors and locks unlocked in this city, especially the finance department. Now I find out it's manual, but you're actually the guy that told me it was electronic. But I just hate to see the finance department's door unlocked for 3 days when Mr. Carrillo's got all that money over there. I just don't think it's a smart thing to do. So can you get with the folks from Kratos or whoever it is and maybe Human Resources and figure out what our problem is on the city, at the city, with not being able to lock doors? Because we shouldn't have that system if we're not going to lock the doors.
Certainly, member.
And I can tell you, there's a number of city employees in this city that say that this is a very common occurrence in the city. That's not a good thing.
And there shouldn't be any reason why some doors don't have the system and some doors do. So we will get together with HR and Public Works and Kratos and make sure that the problem is addressed.
Thank you.
I have a question. Because, I mean, we're now talking to everybody about getting together, but these things we've been addressing. So let me ask the question directly to HR, because HR is saying they're the ones responsible. Who handles this assignment in HR? Who's responsible for coordinating with Kratos?
We have currently administrative rights assigned to the HR analyst, the HR manager, and also someone in the police department.
So are you aware of the problems that we've had?
We have that with the contractor and all the departments, and are working towards obviously correcting all of those issues.
Including the one that is dealing with the fact that we have employees that don't have access to alarms, to be able to access doors, and they're not coded into the alarm system because we haven't given them access? How are we resolving that?
If it's a badge issue,
yes,
yes, we work with the departments or the department heads to ensure to get approval for that access, obviously.
You say you do? But
yes,
are you aware that there's been an ongoing problem with a contract employee that doesn't have that access?
I just learned of that, yes.
Oh. But it's been going for a while. So how does the things get communicated to HR so that they can be the ones that's in the front to address them versus Public Works and police?
Well,
it matters when they come up. It sounds like they come to the departments, but it's really over at HR where everybody needs to go to resolve badges, people who access, people who don't know that they don't have access to a facility, or their badge doesn't allow them an access at a certain time frame.
Yeah, the issues that have arisen recently, when somebody brings it up, particularly on that Friday, Mayor Pro Tem, on August 31st, when you made a call to me and the door to find
That wasn't a Friday, that was a Monday.
I believe it was a Monday, unless there was an occurrence on Monday too that I'm not aware of. But the Friday, August 31st.
That was one of the days.
Yeah, when Tony from Maintenance and Operations provided me with the report first thing on Tuesday, September the 4th, I believe. There were record of access, to that door. And then, that report was provided by HR. So point being, if an issue arises, then we will immediately contact HR to make sure what the record is in terms of who unlocked the door or who left the door open possibly. So it's a maintenance responsibility as well as being the guardian of the programming and working with Kratos, which really lies in HR in terms of access.
Does that include the employee and development services that's expected to be at work at 6 o'clock in the morning to program inspections and doesn't have access to turn the alarm off, so she has to work with an alarm going until somebody shows up to shut it off?
Yeah, that one I can't comment on. I need to find out what the issue is. I was only made aware of the finance door, which was left open on that Friday.
I think we had a conversation with you on Thursday about that issue.
The development services?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, then it slipped my mind. Yeah,
yeah,
I
okay.
need to, right.
Okay. The other part I wanted to ask about this contract, so this is 1 year and then with, 4 remaining years for renewal, but this is a total of 1 year extensions totaling 5 years. In the price increases, the adjustments, is there any reasoning behind it in particular? Not to exceed 3% or something?
Yeah, they'll lock in that 3% if we go with the 5-year term, as opposed to if we did it year by year. I think that traditionally, what we've seen historically, it's been 3%. They'll lock in at 9.74 total over the 5-year period. So, and we get a benefit if we lock in the 5 years. Otherwise, if we go year to year, the historic trend has been 3%.
Okay. What's your pleasure? Yes.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Scott and seconded by Councilmember Carazellis. Any objections? None? Okay, that motion carries. 6.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. Tab 6 requests your approval to increase purchase order number 2018-0725 in the amount of $22,000 for a total of $96,500 to cover our costs for personnel investigation services. And as you are aware, the city does utilize a variety of investigators contracted, that is, for investigating some of our personnel matters. In September of 2017, the city, in fact, acquired the services of Kathy Gandara Law Offices. Her work encompassed investigations of 4 different matters, the latest of which totals $63,546. The final report associated with this last investigation was actually submitted to the city on August 6th. Hence, we don't expect any additional expenses with relationship to any other work regarding Ms. Gandara's services. The reports and any attachments associated with any of these investigations, incidentally, did meet the scope of work as directed by myself, the HR director, and as expected within the standards of typical investigation work. Based on the final invoices, the total for Ms. Gandara's services will be $96,500. Therefore, we respectfully request an amendment to the PO in the amount of $22,000 to enable any final payments due to her. That concludes my report, unless you have any questions.
Comments? Councilmember Barker?
Yeah, I had a
Jr.?
question.
Sorry.
I know during the middle of Ms. Gandara's investigation, at what point did staff look at this item and kind of figure, is this too much, or did staff ever make that recommendation? Because initially, when we first approved the contract, how much was the first contract for?
I can't recall, but I know we came back to the council a few months ago and had asked for an amount not to exceed $74,000. So clearly it was less than that, maybe half of that when we first started.
Well, I guess my question, did she do the work and then come back and ask for the money later without council's authority to continue to do the work?
No, I've been asking for amendments to the PO as necessary. Her, obviously, in her scope of work, she's communicating all of the different employees or other sources she needs to interview. Sometimes it's difficult to digest how long that's going to take, or perhaps how long some of those interviews will go, and consequently some of the additional work that might be involved to develop the transcripts. But indeed, she does keep me abreast of what's coming up next. And so obviously, in the interest of completing the work and the investigation, I did authorize that work to proceed.
So you did authorize that?
Yes.
Okay. So my other question is, can we, I guess the general feeling, just in my opinion, of the council is that this is a lot of money we're paying for this type of investigation. The question is, could we ask for a reduction of pay? Can we come back and do that? Is it legal? If we feel this is too high, and settle? I know we've done it in the past for different contractors or vendors, but it's just, this is very high. And I'm not sure where my colleagues are at on this, but you know, it just seems like a lot of this work was done, and it's just very excessive on the cost we're spending on this. And you know, it was under your authority, not the council's authority, to continue to spend this type of money. So that's just my question. Can we come back and ask for a reduction?
If I may, from a legal standpoint, there's nothing illegal about making that request, and certainly if you've had an issue with the cost that it ultimately reached, you can make that request. Obviously, she could decline, and then we could reserve our arguments as to whether there's a breach. But there's nothing illegal is the point to making that request.
It's just an option, but that's all I have to say.
Councilmember Trio.
Without getting too much information, is the seriousness of your investigation kind of reflective in the cost of this?
What I can share with
Contract.
you is that As an HR department, we have an obligation to investigate complaints, and I do believe the extent of the investigation did encompass or address our concerns or our obligations.
I feel that's important, is to, if there's a HR complaint, that we're able to investigate it. The cost, I guess, has been a question with my colleagues, but again, I was trying to get to the point of if the amount of work that needed to take place to address these complaints, because there's, can you say that how many there are? The number?
I will not comment on the investigation. Okay. I can tell you the extent of the work is consistent, appropriate with the standards on any investigation.
Okay.
Another comment, if you don't mind. So in addition to all the comments that were made, the staff report also indicates that the law firm of Kathy Conera is not in compliance, has not completed a business license renewal nor paid her business license. So we want to make sure she gets that done, otherwise she will not get paid.
Okay.
Okay.
So what is the pleasure of the body?
I move for the total that was mentioned on the agenda, $96,500, to cover the additional cost for the investigation.
Okay. Is there a second to it? Then if there's no second, it dies for lack of a second. So what is the
Madam Mayor,
desires of
I would like to concur with Councilmember Baca and see if we can reach out and say that, you know, we're really uncomfortable with the high ticket, and see if she will consider giving us a reduced bill. So I guess
okay.
City we'd have to reach out to her.
So therefore, we would like to table this item and bring it back at the second meeting in September, this last meeting in September, and give staff an opportunity to see if there's possibility for a discount. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll defer it until the second meeting in September. All right, and tab number 7.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, the item before you is to ask for acceptance of the California Office of Traffic Safety Grant, to select a traffic enforcement grant, and also to get you to approve budget resolution number 7393 and appropriating the funds of $240,000. The OTS grant that we applied for and was successful in no match grant. So basically what it's going to do is provide the police department, law enforcement operations, and traffic safety programs. The staff report provides the fiscal impact, including specific account numbers and fund numbers that will provide grant disbursements. Our recommendation is that you authorize the police department to accept the grant from OTS in the amount of $240,000 and approve the budget resolution.
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you.
It's been moved by Councilmember Baca, second by Councilmember Trujillo. Any objections? Hearing none, the motion carries. Tab 8. Okay. Redevelopment.
Tab 8, Madam Mayor, is a request for the City Council acting in its successor agency to the former redevelopment agency to approve an agreement for the purchase and sale of property related to successor agency property on Willow Avenue between San Bernardino and Valley for a proposed fire station 205. As you know, the former RDA acquired an 18-acre site between the old Walmart and the new Walmart. Unfortunately, as part of the dissolution process of redevelopment in 2012, the city was required to go through an elaborate process to retain properties. The city proposed to keep 3.3 acres on the western edge of that 18 acres for Fire Station 205, so on the Willow frontage. We prepared an agreement, submitted it to the various taxing agencies that have the authority to approve such transfers. We asked for no-cost conveyance, and ultimately those taxing entities agreed to allow us to retain the 3.3 acres at no cost, as long as we perpetually devoted it to public purposes. Recently, the council awarded the contract for the Phase 1 construction of Fire Station 205, and it's now appropriate to convey the site from the Rialto successor agency to the city of Rialto for that purpose. So staff's recommendation this evening is that you approve the agreement for purchase and sale of property between the RSA and the city of Rialto. We actually have a whopping $1 consideration in the agreement due on closing, and we'll move to put that property in the city's hands. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I think it's a great project, full support of it. You know, this is going to address some of our response times in the south end of Rialto. Just my question is, when's it supposed to break down or start construction? I know it's been brought up before, maybe you've answered that question, but just so the public knows.
So we have a pre-construction meeting with the contractor that council awarded the construction bid to. The meeting is tomorrow. And after that meeting, we'll work with the city clerk to schedule a groundbreaking at the convenience of the council, and it could be as quickly as you would like.
Okay, so
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Steele, Willow Avenue along that area remains to have some wooden poles.
Yes.
What is the status on removing those poles? I think some of them are even in the way of this project. What is the status of removing those poles?
Walmart is still obligated to remove those poles. They've contracted with Synesis, is that the name of the company? And they've delayed the undergrounding of those poles. We do hold a letter of credit to ensure that they are ultimately removed. And I follow up with Walmart every month to find out where that project is. And the last report was it's still in their schedule.
Well, I know we're having a meeting with Mr. Siegel next week, I believe. Yes. I would like that added to the agenda. Okay. I would like him to explain to us why it has not been done and when it's going to be done.
great idea.
Yep.
Okay.
Move for approval. Second.
Moved by Councilmember Caracellis, seconded by Councilmember Baca Jr. Any objections? Hearing none, we move to tab number 9, and that is going to be Tom. Yeah.
This is on present tab number 9. Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. This is a request for City Council to approve union labor periodic labor reset as described in the utilities concession agreement for water and wastewater in the annual amount of $390,019 for calendar year 2017 through 2019. The concession agreement describes the requirement and process for resetting the labor component payment to Rialto Water Services every fourth contract year for both water and wastewater services. The concession agreement requires that after the conclusion of every fourth contract year, the labor component shall be reset at an amount that takes into consideration the annual labor expenses for the previous 4 years, and then an adjustments based upon the anticipated changes for the next 4 years. Also, in addition, the concession agreement allows for contractors' charge on the recommended change. These calculations were based upon the actual changes in wages implemented due to the collective bargaining agreement required for positions identified as union labor. The only difference is the cost used in the calculations are based upon negotiated wages through 2019 and not anticipated wages with the negotiated 3% annual increase as specified in the collective bargaining unit agreement. So the total increase in labor costs was determined to be $991,573 for calendar year 2016 through 2019. Those are the four coming years. Due to the delay in negotiations, the total amount of $991,573 was divided by the 3 remaining years starting in 2017, January 2017. So that's where we get the amount of $390,019 for each 3 remaining years. So as required by the concession agreement, the calculations were done for all union positions and are reflected in the monthly labor bills beginning in January 1 of 2017. These operation costs will be absorbed within the concession agreement, and this did not include any of the administrative or management positions that Veolia holds and RWS. This item was discussed and recommended to proceed for approval by the Water Subcommittee on July 26th. And so staff is recommending that the City Council approve the reset of the water and wastewater labor components for hourly positions classified as union positions as described in the concession agreement in the annual amount of $390,119 for calendar year 2017 through 2019. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be more happy to answer them.
Well, Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
You know, I know you said that this was discussed at the July 26th meeting, of which I don't believe I was there, but I never got a follow-up from anybody about this or these amounts. And Ms. Hayes is back there shaking her head no.
I've heard discussions about this in the monthly third Tuesday ops meetings. I don't recall it. I could be, maybe I fell asleep or something if it was discussed at that meeting. But I do know it didn't come before commission.
It did not go to the commission? Why didn't it go to the utility commission?
This item came out of the audit report of last year, and so the approval, there was no approval by council action. It was implemented starting in July of 2017 or January of 2017. So this was an item that we did have a discussion at the Water Subcommittee. I did not take it to the Utility Commission because it was something that was already being implemented. And what the auditor was asking us to do was to get it ratified by the council. And so the negotiations were handled by RWS and Veolia with the bargaining unit. And it was presented in late 2016, but there was no council action taken at that time.
Well, I understand that. That's all well and good, but you still should have taken it to the Utility Commission for an approval. And everybody has short memory, maybe. I don't know, but I don't think anybody remembers it on July 26th. And it's certainly in the briefing that I got from what transpired at that meeting, it wasn't discussed with me. You know, I understand we need it ratified, but the budget report came to us when? June?
August 14th?
Yeah, this is included in the budget, these
I
rates.
thought it was his last, you guys' last.
But I thought you said it wasn't ratified by the council if it was approved in the budget.
Well, it's included in the budget amounts, but the actual ratification of the item itself had not come to council when it was first implemented. And so what we're doing is we're bringing it back for council for action. But when we adopted the budget does take into consideration these dollars for the current fiscal year 2018-19.
Is that accurate, Mr. Steele?
I don't have the answer to that.
Well, I guess my question would be if they were taken into consideration for 2018, what was put in the budgets in 2016 and 17?
Well, in 2016 and 17, I couldn't tell you for sure what was put in budget, but when RWS projected the labor rates that were going to be assessed to RWS by Veolia, They were included in the 17-18 budget year, and they have been included in the 18-19 budget year. I couldn't answer 16-17.
Can she talk again?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, probably should state.
I stand corrected. Something that somebody said just tugged my memory, because that guy, what's his name, John Maher, was at the subcommittee meeting and gave us a very long presentation, and he did say this, so I stand corrected him. I don't know.
I think it was the one, July.
I don't remember when.
Okay.
And he said it was really just a formality. It wasn't like a money thing. It was just a formality.
It's $390,000. It's money. Mr. Crowley, I would appreciate it in the future if you take this stuff to the Utility Commission.
I'll take care of
before
everything.
you bring it back
Okay.
to us, number one. My final question is, does this trigger any rate increase?
No, it does not.
Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Yes,
I
Councilman.
just had a question. Was this negotiated with Operating Engineers Local 12? Is this who's was
I'll
negotiated
have
with?
to refer to, yes, that is,
So it was
that is
Operating
correct.
Engineers Local 12. You know, for me, one of the things I mean, money's money, you know, but I like the fact that we're able to pay the people that work with the city of Rialto a livable wage, and I'm glad that, you know, it's just all rank and file. It's not management. It's all the worker bees that are doing all the work, and I think they deserve it. So, you know, I'm glad for the operating engineers. I'm glad that their members get to see a little bump, you know. I mean, it's in the budget, so I'm in full support of this action tonight.
Okay, and just my comments, when you go back, I think you, on your chart here, the numbers just are off by one, and so just.
It's probably a rounding error in
Yeah,
the
well, I don't know why
Excel,
you
yeah.
round. If I add them exactly, they don't come up. They're off by one. So anyway, just something to know. So what's the pleasure?
Move approval. Second.
Okay, move approval by Mayor Pro Tem Scott, and second Mayor Pro Tem Scott, and seconded by Councilmember Trujillo.
They had two first, but you know.
Councilmember Baca Jr. Okay. Okay.
It was a tie for
Any
first.
objections? Yeah, I know. Any objections? Hearing none, that motion carries.
Thank you.
Tab 10, thank you.
Tab 10, Madam Mayor, is a request for the City Council to approve a transfer of residual budget amounts to close out obligations for building services to Wildan Engineering for fiscal year 17-18, so last budget year. On August 14, 2008, the council approved a contract extension with Wildan for permit tech, plan check, and inspection services for fiscal year 19, but we also had a request to close out the contract for fiscal year 18 as well. The purchase orders and the contract provisions were updated to accommodate the approved service amounts, but the actual budget for fiscal year 18 was not adjusted to match. It should have been. This action simply increases the fiscal year 18 budget to allow for the closeout payment that you've already authorized by transferring unused budget from other budget lines within development services to the building contract services line. No additional appropriation is required. Staff's recommendation is to approve the transfer of unobligated budget to contract services account so that we can make that final closeout payment for last year to Wildan. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions? If not, can
Move approval.
It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Councilman Baca Jr. Any objections? Hearing none, that motion carries. And then I think tab 11.
Tab 11, Madam Mayor, is a request for the council to approve an access and maintenance easement agreement related to the public water system within the Renaissance Plaza retail project located on the northeast corner of Ayala and Renaissance Parkway. As you know, the city and its development partner are currently constructing the Renaissance Plaza project. We have both on and off-site improvements currently under construction. Cracker Barrel will soon be, if they haven't already, commencing with the vertical improvements on the site. The Rialto Utility Authority is currently constructing a booster pump on the site to improve fire flows to the various users that will occupy the pads. This pump will then connect to an internal distribution system in the common area in the driveways, and that is the subject of the proposed easement. Staff recommends that the Rialto Utility Authority accept the common on-site distribution system into the public water system that we will ultimately own and maintain, along with the booster pump facility. All private connections to this system will be paid for by the users themselves. They will also be inspected by the city entities that are responsible for such inspections in accordance with our customary procedures. Again, as I mentioned, RUA will maintain the common facilities, and we have this similar arrangement with Rialto Marketplace as well. So it's common with a pad format where you have common driveways serving individual parcels. Staff's recommendation is to approve the access and maintenance agreement between the City of Rialto and Ayala and 210 Partners. Be happy to answer any questions.
I think Councilmember Boston moved and Councilmember Rios second. Okay.
We're the 13. We're the Christmas tree.
Moved and Councilmember Trio second. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none. Motion carries. And then the last item, tab 13, is the request for the holiday parade.
Christmas tree.
Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, what you have before you is a request for City Council to consider and approve combining the annual tree lighting ceremony with the holiday parade to create one nighttime event on December 8th, 2018. As a way of background, in fiscal year 2018-2019, during the budget process, City Council adopted in whole or part certain special events placed on the citywide special events calendar. The Christmas tree lighting ceremony and the holiday parade are both on that calendar. Staff would like City Council to approve combining the annual tree lighting ceremony with a nighttime holiday parade. Typically, the tree lighting ceremony takes place at night and the holiday parade follows the next day. And regardless of purpose or age of an event, for any event provided using city funds as a source, it's appropriate for us to bring this to City Council to determine whether or not the city will carry out those programs. And such as this one, it's more appropriate for us to come to City Council because it's a change in what we're normally doing. Upon City Council approval, the event schedule would take place on the evening of Saturday, December the 8th, 2018, beginning at 6 o'clock p.m. It saves us about 6 hours in time, and the annual cost, or the per hour cost, is between $1,413 to $1,465. I don't know why he's got me. But thank you, sir.
Thank you, Perry. So I was seconded by Councilmember Trio.
Wait a minute, I want to
objections?
hear about the tree.
The tree's going back downtown.
So in your council agenda item, you'll find the change in the parade route and all the necessary information for it. And if there's any other questions, myself and the committee would be happy to answer them.
And let's light that tree up. Let's go.
Yes.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Carousel, seconded by Councilmember Trio. Is there any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. That concludes the business for this evening and reports. I don't know where to start, but
Well, I have a very short.
Go.
I just I took my family out and a few friends over to the movie theater, which we had been trying to make a date night, and it was actually a date night and a kids night and everything all in one. And we did watch The Nun, so it was. And but I just wanted to say that I really feel that Rialto is now coming together. I mean, everything was packed. We had to book tickets a day before, so you have to go online and buy your tickets the day before. The whole entire movie was packed. There was families out there having at the bar, at the restaurant area. So I just I want to say that I feel like it's now a hub where all of Rialto can hang out and come out and have a family night. And what was even more interesting is most of the time we go to the movies, we have a 20-minute drive home, and this time we're home in about 5 minutes. So it was kind of interesting, and just want to share that. And that's all I have today, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Trio.
So I had a great couple weeks. I had the opportunity to attend our landscaping workshop, but it wasn't as popular as maybe the other sessions were, and we were able to take the leftover food and to the volunteers who were setting up our displays at our 9/11 memorial in front of the fire department and the police department. So they were able to get lunch from the landscaping workshop. So it was really interesting. Okay. And so I had a really good time kind of meeting the volunteers at the fire station, in front of the fire station, after they just completed the memorial on the police department. But again, it was great that they were doing that work, and again, it turned out really nice. And it's good to be able to observe such a solid day with paying respects to all those who lost their lives. So I just wanted to say thank you to the volunteers and for that. And then also I had the opportunity to go to Rialto High School and talk to some of our students about city government and some of the government classes. So I really enjoyed that as well over the last week. And there's some wonderful programs out in the city. My daughter rejoined the area dance and cheer company here in the city, and she's basically returned to ballet. And it's a very popular program. You have a lot of youth that are really involved with the dance and cheer program there. So I just want to say kudos to Jennifer, who is one of our city contractors here, not just here at the Rialto Community Center, but she also has a studio up at the near the north of the 210 freeway off Riverside Avenue. So she does a really good job in promoting her programs, and the word of mouth has gone around so much that she does have a lot of our youth involved. So other than that, I just wanted to wish everyone a good week, and I hope to enjoy the rest of the week along with you guys, with our friends and family. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Baca.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to thank our police and fire for putting on the 9/11 memorial service today. I think that's really, really important. I had my daughter ask me this morning, who was 9, she really doesn't understand what 9/11 meant and what it means to our country, and then how we pay homage to those that sacrificed and served this country to try to have freedoms and protect us. So I think it's important that we continue the message and share with the kids and the generations to come, so they understand, because a lot of people really don't understand what really happened that day and why it happened. And not that we have all the answers, but we can at least educate people and let them know what happened. So thank you, police and fire, for doing that today. I had an opportunity to go this weekend to the Johnson Center. There was the Brandon Harris Memorial Basketball Clinic that they had this weekend. I want to thank our Rialto staff that kind of helped in this clinic. And Brandon Harris was a young man from this community who just lost his life. So I want to adjourn in memory of Brandon Harris. But, I really want to thank a good friend of mine, Reggie Fortunat, he's a volunteer at the Johnson Center, and he works with these kids. He spends a lot of time with these kids, and he does it for nothing. It's thankless for him. He just cares about kids, and he gives his time. And another young man named Javon Jenkins, who's very active at the Johnson Center. Those two men put this clinic together. They had T-shirts. They fed the kids. They gave out a lot of good things at the Johnson Center, and it was just a good community turnout. The mother of Brandon Harris was there, and his fiance was there. So it was good to see the community support and people come together for a good cause, and I just really, really appreciate it. And I know that there's more stores that are continuing to open. If you look at the progress at the Renaissance Center, I know this weekend, I believe Burlington is opening up this weekend, so that's really exciting. They're going to have a bunch of activities. I think they're having a groundbreaking on Friday. But it's just good to see the progress. But I like the fact that people are now having a different outlook on Rialto. I know shaking the reputation of the late 80s, early 90s, as being a gang-ridden town, and now it's getting to the point where it's improving. We still have a long ways to go, but, I wanted to, our vision is hopefully to have it a place where people want to come and raise their families. I think that's important, whether it's good schools, safe communities, and a lot of amenities. So people are starting to spend money here. We're capturing a lot of dollars here that we had never captured before. I think Rob Steele gave a report a few years ago where we were one of the lowest cities as far as capturing tax dollars, and I'm sure that's starting to change. So it's good to see us turn the corner. A lot more work to do, and I want to thank my colleagues up here for, sometimes we disagree philosophically, but I think in the general well-being, we all generally want the same thing. We want good things for Rialto. But thank you, Madam Mayor, and appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
This morning, I attended the 9/11 program with the mayor. It was a real nice program. Kathy Thompson did a great job with her historic perspective of that horrific event, and it was really nice. I would only say one thing, and that is that I wish more people would come out to it. And I really think we should find a way to have the city's employees out there. I think we owe that to police and fire, and we owe that to the history of the event. So I'd like to find a different way, if we can, to maybe get more people, kids from some of the schools. I think that would be a good event for kids to attend, and just frankly get some more people out. There was a lot of good programs on the TV today. I was honestly got to say, I listened to the president do a speech that was a very good speech, a very unusual speech, but it was very good. He showed a lot of respect and dignity to the victims of 9/11 and the families, and both police and fire. So, but I appreciate the job you guys did today. It was really great. I think everything went very well, and it was really a nice event to go to. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Quickly, just to follow up, I think I acknowledged earlier that I did attend the event, and it's a remembrance. It's not a celebration, so I look forward to us figuring out how we can make sure more of our community is involved with coming out and observing the activity next year with us as well. And I guess what stuck with me this morning was, I know I saw that the fire chief recognized that of the number of people that the firefighters that was lost, it was, the number stuck with me because we now have it on the back of one of the trucks. And I sat there and dawned on and said, okay, normally we say 300 feet, stay 300 feet behind, and they've added now 343 because that was the number that actually was lost during 9/11. And so I said, now looking at that and seeing it pass by, and thank you for pointing that out, and when I see that on the truck, it'll bring about a different thought. And then with Kathy Thomas bringing something else, as she said, but the number that we always forget, we know it was thousands, but then when she said it was 22,977 that lost their lives that day, that's another number that will always just for some reason stick with me. It's very, very exact. So it was really a good presentation. And the other thing, a couple of things I attended. I did attend a water roundtable last Friday up at West Valley Water District with a number of other water providers. Just again talking about the water fix, what it will mean to Southern California, but more importantly, what perhaps we should be doing down here. And of course, I want to acknowledge that Commissioner Hayes was there as well, and she, as she noted, in a dual hat as Commissioner Hayes and also as a board member elected for San Bernardino Municipal Water District. But it was good. It was good to see as many people come together that are dealing with something that we definitely are always going to need, regardless of what situation and what climates and directions we're going. I don't know if it's going to be fulfillment centers, we'll be back to brick and mortar or what have you, but we'll always need water. And so other than that, we will be, I think, a couple of colleagues, I know Mayor Pro Tem and I will be leaving here tomorrow, and tonight I head out for the California League of Cities conference that will be occurring down in Long Beach. I didn't know, were you going as well? Yes. Yeah, and Councilmember Carasalis. So we have that. We'll close in memory of Brandon Harris. I know that they were having the clinic. I'm glad that that went off. And I also would like to let everyone know that perhaps if we could keep our prayers. You have something?
Yes.
Okay. I found out a week ago that Miss Hattie Inge went to, went south to visit with her daughter in Alabama, and she apparently did have a stroke, and so she is actually still in Alabama in rehab, and they don't know yet if she'll be returning or how she will be able to return. So I would just like to let everybody in the community know, if they're not aware, that that has occurred, and so keep Ms. Hinge in our prayers, and also her family, and hopefully we will see her being able to return to the Rialto community. And so, and then we also, I don't know if you were going to announce, but because we will not, it'll happen before the next council meeting, were you going to announce the wastewater treatment plant groundbreaking activity, or did you have something else?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, yeah, I have a few items to report. Number one, we wanted to ask the City Council to consider cancellation of the meetings in October, going dark in October. That would be October 9th and October 23rd. So if you would have a discussion, consensus on going dark on that one in October. That's on the agenda. Secondly, I wanted to say that well, it is on the agenda under the city administrator's report to get the consensus from the city council to go dark in October.
Well, this is just it's just for discussion. I understood it would come back for formal action or some other format, because it's just
no,
on.
I think when we discussed it in department head, we said we've done it.
That's right.
Just the announcement.
So it should be an announcement. If that's been the, that's right. There's been an annual.
We just normally
Formal
announce.
announcement, and then as the city clerk, I would do a proper notice that both of the meetings has been canceled.
If that's been the policy of the city, no action is required.
Okay. All right.
So secondly, I was also at the September 11th event this morning, and I want to echo everything that the council said and thank police and fire, for a very touching presentation. Farmers Market is tomorrow. Reminder for the community from 10 o'clock to 2. Last Thursday, the first week of the Institute of Progress occurred. I want to thank City Attorney for the lecture, of the legal aspects. And so this Thursday, as you mentioned, Madam Mayor, because of the League of California Cities event, we were going dark, but then it will resume week 2 on the 20th, and that would be me and the City Treasurer and City Clerk on the Big Picture Institute. And then with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rob Steele for any update on the Economic Development Corner.
I'll just give a couple of quick things. Gina took in today the second Panera Bread down at the former Walmart property, so they submitted their PPD application today. Also for their 2 freestanding pads that'll have some of the multi-tenant spaces. I believe they've got their construction drawings in for the major remodel of the existing building, so that's expected to commence here in the next month or so. You mentioned Burlington, Habit and Blaze, I think are next steps sort of coming, kind of watching them. At your next council meeting, you'll be considering the Ayers Hotel. That'll be located across from the theater. You'll also be considering the 3 industrial buildings that are proposed for that stretch from Linden West to Locust as well. Industrial, we don't talk about it much, but obviously there's a lot going if you drive up in the northwest section of the city with Proficiency there along the 210 freeway. Prologis has gone vertical with their building on Tamarind. There's clearing and grubbing going on right now where Pacific Industrial is going to start a project at Alder and Baseline. They also have a project at Walnut and Alder, so and Prologis is building on the north side of the 210 freeway on Locust as well. So I think Panettone's next up on El Ravino, trying to pull permits on that within the next month or so too. So a lot of things making their way through the planning and project pipeline.
And then, Madam Mayor, the wastewater treatment plant project, the groundbreaking is scheduled for September 19th at 9 o'clock at the location.
All right. Okay, well, that's it. Did we miss anything? If not, I entertain a motion for adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Scott and seconded by Councilmember Baca Jr. No objections. We are adjourned. No objections. No objections.